In a world where space and time are intertwined, one man dared to challenge the status quo. His name? Dayton Miller. His weapon of choice? A flute. But not just any flute. This instrument held the power to unleash the ether, a pervasive medium once thought to fill the universe. Miller, a physicist by trade, a musician at heart, discovered a harmonic resonance.
All right, hello and welcome everyone to Twitter community space night. We're gonna hop on Brian's sweet space, see what's up with the lads and ladettes over on Twitter land.
Proves, aka proves the Higgs boson, and me and can have a conversation offline about what the Higgs proves your math, not the other way around. You don't say math proves reality like Red's rhetoric says. It's
math proves reality.
Exactly. I'll find that clip.
We live on, dude. Remember that time? Sorry to interrupt. Remember that time he tried to derive the distance to the sun without assuming anything, and then at the beginning of his video, he's like, "All right, boys, all I had to do was assume a couple of things, like the radius." It's like, all right, dude. Classic MacGruber. Anyway, what are you guys up to?
Nah, bro. I'm glad you showed up because you're exactly right, bro. I spent 3 hours breaking down their math, bro. I'm on my Pizio shit right now, bro. I'm so excited.
Oh, dude, you on that Pizio shit?
I'm on that Pizio, bro.
Oh, dude. Speaking of being on that Pizio shit, boy, do I have an update for the lads and ladettes tonight.
Okay, let me just wrap this up in 30 seconds. Okay, even if we grant, to ban Notice's point, even if we grant that muons that we don't have access to, we have to have, trust me, bro, physics, right? Trust me, bro, physics. It doesn't matter. Even if we grant that the muon has a longer lifespan, you get the same result if you implement an ether drag to that muon, right? Change happens regardless, right? So if dragging towards a medium affects your change, that change is going to happen slower. So if that change happens in the lifetime of the muon and it's slowed down by interaction with the medium, there's your goddamn time dilation, right? The mechanics of what you're doing, whether it be a clock or a muon, it's interacting with that medium. And you can prove it with math, as I will do, as I can't wait to show. I'm going to put, oh my God, I need you to show up, bro. The time dilation formula is so funny when you start with reality. If you don't start with an abstract reference frame where you redefine length as the space between 2 points, two space-time points that happen at different times, whatever the fuck that means, you can start with reality and say you have a medium that you're interacting with, which will slow down the interaction of the energy input of the oscillations between back and forth between that atomic clock. Now, as intimidating as that sounds, Alan knows what I'm talking about. It's not that intimidating. It's not. And we'll break down the math that starts with the reality to show why the time dilation of the atomic clocks interacting with medium proves relativity wrong. And Ken is so right. When you put the proof in what refutes your claim and says it proves it, holy shit, that's the last place you look. And that was brilliant.
Dude.
But anyway, do your thing, bro.
Oh, the old muon. Didn't you know, Mr. Zave, that this medium you speak of was disproven in 1887 when the final nail in the coffin, when they built an etherferometer, and they were looking to measure the ether, and they didn't find any ether. Did you miss that memo, bro?
Well, damn, I missed that memo, bro. Damn, I'm all fucked. Never mind.
Yeah, bro.
I'm sitting on mine.
The Royal Society put out a PSA, bro. They were like, "Hey, boys, there's no ether. We sent the guys to go look for it. They didn't find any. All we found was our belief in Earth's an unwavering belief in Earth's velocity, despite the fact that we can't measure it."
Amen, brother.
Speaking of Earth's velocity, dude, If anyone wants a velocity component of 30 kilometers a second, I might know a guy. Now, you might be a couple of fringes short, right? But if you guys want it, I got you.
Oh, we want it, brother. We want it.
All right. So you guys ready for to rest in peace the heliocentric model to infinity?
Oh, you know we are, man. What do you got? What do you got for us?
All right. So this is that young Pizio right here, dude. So how many of you guys are familiar with the story of Ole Rømer? O-L-E Rømer and his measuring the speed of light through the occultation timings of Jupiter's moons. Anyone ever heard that story?
I have not.
It's a fantastic little fable piece, right? So this guy who did this whole catalog of work, but sadly that work has been destroyed, so we'll never see what he wrote down. We'll never see the exact numbers and figures. But as the story goes, he was measuring the occultation timing of Jupiter's moons, when they eclipse. So he was seeing how long the moon was blocked for, and when it would reappear. And as the story goes, is that when he took measurements on the first part of the year, on like the spring equinox, and then he predicted out what the time would be in the fall. And when the fall rolled around, it said that he was off by a little bit, and he couldn't figure out why he was off. And then it hit him a couple years later after some more data recordings, etc. It hit him. Oh yeah, the Earth is in orbit, so it's changing positions. So that's why the timing is off. So the way that they tell the story is that this guy at the beginning part of the year measured 16 minutes, right, for the moon being blocked. And then on the fall equinox, he measured 22 minutes, right? Because it was the way that they're framing this is that based on where the Earth's position is in its orbit, based on the time of year, when you're closer or further away from Jupiter, and when Jupiter's moons are furthest and closest to itself, or to Jupiter, with respect to the Earth's orbit, you're going to have a change in time. This is what they're putting forward based on the speed of light. So it's going to take the time for that light to get there, etc. So what they've put forward is that if you use the astronomical unit, which is 93 million miles. So if you take two astronomical units divided by 22 minutes, you get close to the speed of light. You get 220 million kilometers a second with that value. And so they're like, oh, look, he got pretty close to the speed of light. Now, the thing is, if the distances were as they say they are, based off of what Kepler said and what Newton said for these planets, then there has to be that 16-minute difference. Otherwise, it doesn't come out correctly. The timing is off because it's based off of the speed of light in a certain distance. So it has to come out exactly, right? So what they found is that it always comes out as 22 minutes. So in modern times, when you look at stellarium and you plot these occultation timings out, they're always 22 minutes, no matter what season no matter what the equinox, right? And the reason for that, or the reason that's significant, is because back in the day, you could use the occultation timings to determine where you're at using the latitude-longitude system. So you could determine your longitude by watching the occultation timing, because the way that they would happen, they happen in regular intervals of like 42 hours, the eclipses. So if you know when the eclipse is going to be, and you know what time it is, you can measure the difference in that, and you could figure out where you're at using latitude and longitude. So the reason that's important is because that exact timing of 22 minutes right? If it was actually 16 minutes, as they're telling us in this story, to be backwards compatible with the speed of light to give us the correct distances for everything. But if that timing were true, then the ancient mariners would have had to account for that timing difference. That difference would be in stellarium today. So we just watched a video of a guy who was trying to reproduce Rømer's work. And what he found was that on the equinoxes, the timing was always 22 minutes, and he didn't understand what he was doing wrong. Well, what he was doing wrong was nothing. The heliocentric model is based off of ratios of constants and periodicities. The distances have no physical meaning. They work out with a proportionality ratio because that's how ratioing constants over periodicities works, right? They're going to share proportionality. So that's why all the distances scale out the way that they do. And then when they asserted Newtonian dynamics to it, which again, using constants and proportionality or constants over the periodicity, there's got a proportionality. So they're like, oh look, it's guys, the sky it must be this far away based on that's how they determine the astronomical unit. That's how they got the baseline for all of these things to make these assertions on distances. And what this timing offset shows, them being off by like 6 minutes, using the speed of light, which goes at 300 million miles a second. I mean, if you're off by 5 minutes, you're basically not even close. That's not, So anyway, long story short, you could pull up Stellarium right now and falsify the old Rømer story, because if it were true, then that timing offset would be included in the information that's provided, because the Stellarium is based off of the almanac and the Gaia data set, which is basically confirming the positions of the almanac down to, fractions of an arc second. So with that said, we know the exact timing, what it has to be in order for it to work out for heliocentrism to be true, as well as the way that they're interpreting the speed of light, because there's only two variables in the equation, which is distance and time. Or, I'm sorry, distance and speed. So we did the speed of light, and the distance being the astronomical unit, which is derived from their ratios or whatever. So, and we know in the lab, right, we could measure light pretty accurately. We got the whole speed down pretty good using ratios against it. So we know that's pretty solid. So the only thing that we don't know, right, the only thing that's up for grabs here is the astronomical unit, right? That ratio that based off of, or that distance based off of a ratio. And if that's wrong, then, their whole model is just conceptual and not physical. So that's the significance of that. If anyone has any questions or comments, we'll be here all night.
What would you say to somebody who ignored the significance of what you just said, to say, wait a minute, here using Stellarium? That proves the globe. Why would you use Stellarium to prove the globe wrong? Hardy har. What would you say to that?
Ooh, well, specifically, Stellarium is just positions of the stars at a specific time. It's not the globe, right? They're all mapped to the latitude-longitude system. But more importantly, we're not necessarily falsifying the globe in this scenario. We're falsifying a cosmological belief system about how the planets and all these things have certain distances associated with them that have to have a physical meaning, or, that have to have physical meaning if their model is, truly correct. And that could be verified by the timing difference in the speed of light. That's why they had to change the story about old Rømer and say that he measured this timing difference, although there's no data to support that. But that's what it would have to be. Like, that's what you would have to backwards derive it to be, that 16-minute difference or timing, so that you could get a proportional distance to place that moon where Jupiter is said to be based on Kepler's laws. And the only way you could do that is by saying it, is by speaking the words, right? But when you actually go to do like practical navigation and like determine your longi, you don't use 16 minutes. Like the myth melts away. And when you go to look at where that moon's going to be using all recorded data since, that's been publicly available since whatever, right? It shows 22 minutes on that bad boy. So I'll link the video here. You guys can check it out when you get a second on your own time. It's a 5-minute little piece. The first 2 minutes, he's laying out the history of old Rømer, so we can all get acquainted with what what they're putting forward. And then on the second half, he goes over his calculations and he's like, I got the same thing Rømer did. Not sure what happened. If anyone can help me out with that, let me know. Sadly, no one was able to help him out because they all believe in the distances and they all believe in the constancy of the speed of light. So they're not really sure who to throw under the bus. So none of the comments were particularly helpful in making a determination on where he went wrong. But
so wait a minute. If you're saying that there's a variance in C, and we're clearly told that there isn't an invariance in C, what do we do?
Well, we just have to pretend it never happened, accuse you of being wrong, and then just tell everyone that Rømer measured what he measured. And if anyone disagrees with that, so you think they're all in on it? So all the history guys are lying?
So all the scientists and everybody is wrong, huh?
All the people that I'm citing that have never seen the firsthand work either are lying? Okay. That's what you're telling me?
Well, they don't have to lie, right? Just repeat the tautology.
Exactly. And that's exactly the issue, because that's what everyone was doing. When I followed up on this and was looking into it last night, I saw people were asking about Jupiter's moons, how it works and the timings and stuff. And I would see people in comments or replies, and they would be like, "Oh, don't forget, you got to add your 16 minute, blah, blah, blah," right? But if you had to do that, then you couldn't find your longitude correctly. So you don't have to do that. That's just a myth. That's just something that people are saying. That's an urban legend now. So the old Rømer story, right? That supposedly segues into confirming the constancy of C, and which is later used to somehow reify the heliocentric model based off of a measurement that didn't go their way. But even with that starting point.
Did we lose them?
Nah. Kind of forgot what I was saying.
Something about the starting point.
Only I could remember what the starting point was. You know what I'm saying? That's the part that I had no problem remembering, Ken. That's the part I had no problem remembering, bro. That did not help at all.
Take another bong hit, brother. Sometimes it comes back when you're not expecting it.
Right?
That's true. That's true. It sneaks up.
But this all sounds very impressive. But I got one question, because this is what makes it really, really valid or whatnot for me. How did Ruhif handle the news?
Oh man, Roofski hasn't heard of it yet. This is brand new, fresh off the press.
Oh,
but I will assume he'll say something to the effect of so is stellarium wrong, Flurf, or something? And it's like, well, no, and that's the point, right? So
it's like they don't understand the concept of a hostile witness. We're using your own model to disprove your own model. It's like, it's not that we're using it because we believe in it. It's using it to show the inconsistencies. It's like, how do you not get that?
Dude, it's so funny when you sit there and explain their own model to them. So you believe in the globe. So right, they're good. It's like, bro, really?
By the way, Alan, I just shared on the net your presentation on Globebusters about ether physics. Excellent job, by the way. And I know it hits the right people when your favorite physicist that works at SON responds. He just can't help himself. He unblocked me, by the way. So I know it gets to me. He just can't let that float out.
Dude, he gets super triggered and he has to unblock it. Here's what I think happens, right? He gets all hot and bothered, blocks us, and then someone is like, "Help! They're doing it again!" And he has to come see, and then he has to unblock to interact.
Yeah, so
I can't stay away. I must. It's funny.
Yeah, because, I seen you replying to that guy. I was gonna type something, and then I was like, "Nah, I have better things to." Yeah, then I just decided to just scroll on. But yeah, he was like, it doesn't matter what you call it. It's important. What equations can you predict with it? It's like, bro, you can derive like all the fancy Maxwell's equations that you like. You can derive all the solutions based off of an A vector potential, like an underlying thing to describe it. And he's like, nope, we'll just ignore that and just go into abstract fields of math or whatever. Like, so lame.
Well, Franco doesn't even think that a medium is important in physics. So
I know. What's crazy? Like honestly, all these people that are like, dude, there's the secrets of the ether. It's unlimited energy. Blah, blah. I don't know anything about that. Here's what I know. You can measure all motion relative to it using light down to the wavelength. If the motion is larger than the wavelength, you can measure it with light. The wavelengths go down to 10 times 10 to the minus 10. So if you can move further than 10 times 10 to the minus 10, it can be measured with light. And that's extremely significant because in the mainstream, they say that there's no medium for all motion to be relative to, and that it's just a field of abstract math. Well, a field of abstract math you can't make measurements against it in reality. Light's not going to be relative to it. That's retarded. So that's all I know about mediums.
And that point is significant. It's not that reality is proved by math. It's the math is verified by reality. And when you can show that you come up with the same equations, then it's not exclusive to your globe. It's not. And that's the important part of it. And he can't respond. He has to just regurgitate his script, because if you could come up with the math, their idol, and it shows a meaningful explanation by applying a medium, and you get the same equation. Houston, we have a problem. What do we do? So again, excellent job on that, and that's in my archives.
Nice, dude. I seen you going to town on that. I was like, look at my boy out there just wielding that sword, just chopping people up with it. Big old claymore on the battlefield, just doing 360s with it. I've been watching a lot of Forged in Fire lately, boys. So if I start analogizing everything with things on the battlefield with ancient weaponry, that's why, guys.
Hey, I'm down for it, man. If you can throw any dragon references in there, man, I'm down for that too.
Are you talking about Elvarg? The green dragon that lives on Crandor?
Well, I don't know if I was or not, but sounds like a cool cat to me.
Well, she was a nice dragon.
Well, it was. No, did you kill her?
I mean, I cut her head off and took it home to the Legends Guild for trophies so that I could wear a rune plate.
Was it worth it?
Was it worth it to kill a monster to wear better armor? Yes. Yes, that is now my life.
That is now my life. You're a dragon. You're a dragonator.
I kill all dragons equally if they drop good loot.
You're a dragonist.
Yes.
Old Rømer. Mark that for a later date.
I wanted to ask, because part of that presentation you talked about the maximum induction rate limit of Maxwell's equations. So, can you explain the significance of the maximum induction rate into a more everyday language for our listeners, and why that's significant, and how they translated that into a constant?
Yeah, so you take the electric permittivity and magnetic permittivity values, and when you do a summation of those and then invert the units that you're left with, and then take the reciprocal of that, so just squaring it, you get the speed of light. Like the value that comes out is the speed of light. And that's pretty crazy because what it's showing is that those values are dictating that induction rate. Like it's a direct proportional relationship. And then so using that baseline as the constant, now whether or not you believe in it as a constant or whatever, right, it doesn't matter because you can make measurements against it using wavelengths and then using the same ratioing to figure out what velocity produced the phase difference. So it's really interesting how that all works out because it shows the direct relationship to the medium and then to electromagnetic propagation, and then you're measuring, all motion relative to this medium. Like, it all fits together very cohesively.
As far as the fluctuating fields of math, as hilarious as that is, and people don't realize that you can't start with abstract concepts. How do we translate that? Listen, this has been rebranded. The ether physics, the properties of ether physics have been rebranded to have different layers of fields, and that's kind of hard to describe to a normie how these fluid dynamics are the same. I even have a graph of how they modeled their fluid dynamics, and how do you explain these vector lines that's behaving as far as a medium is concerned? How do you explain that with abstract math? Math needs a referent, right? Two apples. You need the apples to signify the two. You can't have two in and of itself. And when we have abstract math that's described in and of itself, and we assert it as axiom, that doesn't work out. There's no meaningful explanation to it. Yes, your math works out, is predictable, but there's no meaningful explanation. Can you elaborate on what meaningful explanations mean? Sorry to keep. You're rarely here, so I'm going to pull as much as I can out of you, but it is significant.
Well, the underlying backbone of everything that they solve starts with Schrodinger's wave equation, right? So like they never get out of the medium or like what's dictated by the medium. And then after they solve that nice wave equation, they do after the fact, calculations to determine like where the subatomic particles would exist within this wave equation that they just solved. So, it's like illusory that they remove the medium and that there's like that there is no medium and it's just a field of math. It's like, that's just how they teach it to people. But like the baseline of what they're doing though starts with a wave equation. They've never got out of the medium, dog.
Well, Ken talked about how Einstein himself stated if the propagation of light is dependent at all based on the source, that his whole theory is wrong. And you have Sagnac explanations, presentations, etc., and all different types of explanations that show that is contingent upon the source. But when you bring that up to people, what do they say? The scientism apologists. Any significant responses as of yet?
No, never. So it's a ruse that you could falsify relativity theory and that they're all just waiting for it to be falsified. Because there's explicit instructions left behind by the prophet Albert Einstein in his 1905 paper that you can read, and then you could go and look at experimental measurements and see if his postulates hold up against experimental measurement. And you can see that there's a huge deviation in his postulates versus what you could measure with light in regards to motion. And that right there should be enough to seal the deal, but it's not, because when you get into the math of it, right, the people are so bedazzled by it. They don't care that they're solving they don't care that they're violating the postulates to solve the equation to give like the appearance of an answer to something like the Sagnac effect and the relativistic confines. They don't care. So a big part of like what I've encountered in terms of like any significant responses, it's like, no, not significant responses. I've gotten people who think they've answered the question by not understanding it and then like violating what they believe in and then proposing the violation as the solution. And then, never acknowledging the significance of that, because if you do, then like, your argument's over.
Thank you for that. We'll get to Jonathan, but before that, I think that's really important, that the significance of the Einstein's postulates, they rest on the two postulates. If any of those two postulates is falsified, which they have been, maybe not acknowledged, but they have been, that's done. It's done. It's done. We have to come up with a new paradigm. Your theories do not work, and you guys have been doing an excellent job showing how those theories do not work. And one of the two postulates is false, and that should be enough to throw out the theory. But we don't live in the the realm of scientific method anymore. We live in predictive models, and predictive models, like we all know, is post-diction. We observe what happens in interaction, and we give a just so story of how that happened. So post-diction is something that people need to learn about. But shout out to Shane and sorry, John. But thank you for all your answers to the question.
No worries, lad. Never forget about the importance of the last thing that you just said before it left my mind. It was, hold on, boys. Don't tell me. Don't tell me. Ah, it's gone forever. It's gone forever.
That's some high
Post-dictions.
stuff, man.
Post-dictions.
Like 3 seconds earlier. That's some good stuff, man. You talk to your dealer.
Dude, I haven't even smoked yet. That's like the crazy part.
A post-diction?
Yeah, the post-diction the post-diction thing is super important because like I was talking about earlier with old Rømer and everything, right? Like the heliocentric model, Kepler's laws, all these things are based off of empirical observation. They don't predict anything. They're ratios of what's already been observed, right? They're post-dictions. And so they've asserted physical correctness based off of these post-dictions, which has been falsified. Anyway.
Dude, you guys are talking about how, did someone say relativity is falsifiable? That's pretty funny. It's like, yeah, well, no, if you can't actually measure it, can't actually contract. Your device, which is going to tell you that it's false, is actually going to contract the exact amount that tells you that it's not false each and every time. And there's mathematical backing for that. So how would you actually measure a falsification? But dude, I think Tesla had it right too, and you described it pretty famously and like pretty funny as magnificent mathematical garb which fascinates, dazzles, and makes people blind to the underlying errors. And he's, a beggar clothed in purple whom ignorant people take for a king. Dude, that's the best way about it, right? Oh, he solved everything by us not knowing it, and we can prove it by misunderstanding it publicly. Like this is the biggest farce that in science, right? Anyway, I also heard you describing the speed of light with the permeability and permittivity properties. Isn't that funny? It's like, hey, you know what determines the speed of light? The induction rate through which light travels? Well, the background properties of the medium with which we're going to remove. I'm like, what? Oh, yeah. Well, stay with me here. The thing that doesn't exist actually has the same exact properties as the thing that we know actually perpetuates itself incessantly with no motivation throughout all of eternity. Well, it's just a field of math that'll bring back the exact state of the thing that we took away in the first place, but it's definitely not real. Like, dude, what? What? So if you look at the math, you didn't do anything. You guys are all retarded. And the people who perpetuate it don't understand that, right? Well, I like to think they don't understand it and they're not knowingly perpetuating retardation.
The old benefit of the doubt?
I haven't actually been proven right about doing that yet. Should I keep doing it? What are the rules on that?
I don't know.
It's technically a good practice, but after a while, when you explain something to somebody like 4 times and they willfully like ignore it, then you got to be like, okay, it's not ignorance at this time. You willfully don't want to acknowledge it.
Yeah. And then it's like, how can I craftily pretend that I want to while not acknowledging it hardcore?
Hey, quick side note, Shane. Shout out to you for posting a Jaren versus Jaren video.
Yeah, I stole it from Alan.
Oh, did you do it? Is there a JVJ?
Well, he started with some of the stuff with the eclipses, etc. So I'm like, oh my god, this is gonna be hilarious. But he's already thrown you under the bus. But hey, you got the math on truth on your side, so it is what it is. You did say it. These are your words. You clearly understand it. So what's going on, bro?
Wait, what did he say? What are we talking about?
You don't remember the eclipse video you put out? You put so much stuff out.
Yeah, I was like, hold on, I put a bunch of stuff out. Which clips video are we talking about?
Azigrid clip, maybe? Question
Yeah,
mark?
yeah, yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Dude, there's
No.
another Azzy Grid clip too that's coming where he has even better diagrams. It's insane.
Like, if I didn't know any better, I thought it was me. I was listening to me. I was like, what? He has like great ideas, this guy, all of a sudden. Wait a second. Wait. Are those...
Exactly, which is why I understand that it's not ignorance. He knows that, and I'm not going to go into a gerund conversation, but he knows the arguments. It's not that it's ignorance. He knows it. So
Well,
the JVJ is dope.
Dude, I was surprised because I'd never heard him speak intelligently when I was with him or when I would talk to him. I didn't know he had these ideas. I haven't heard him actually make an argument. But when someone showed me a video of him from 4 years ago, I was like, well, this guy I want to talk to. What? This is a whole different person. Who is this guy? I kind of met Jaron in reverse, right? It's weird.
Like Benjamin Button syndrome or whatever.
Yeah, right? Like, that's exactly a good analogy for it. It's kind of a
Dude,
weird experience.
I've never seen that movie, but I love proposing that as a
I-
real disease.
Can I be friends with you from 4 years ago, Alan? Can we do that? Can you just roll it back for me?
So you're going to rename it Jaron versus Benjamin Button?
Ah.
Dude, it's so funny because in that video, he specifically contradicts everything that he says now with like the snidest, most like contemptuous tone. It's so weird. Like, he so clearly argued against it and then went to the other side and just says the thing that Globers say now.
Right, which is why he doesn't want to talk about dark matter. He doesn't want to talk about dark energy because he knows it's gonna flop his argument. So he's like, yeah, I don't want to talk about that. We know the shape is round because of the 24-hour sun, supposedly. So come on, bro. You know it's dependent upon the orbital velocity is necessary. The space-time is necessary. The dark matter is necessary. All that stuff is necessary. It's all antecedent relationships. And if you don't want to acknowledge it, you don't want to talk about it because you know you're screwed based on your own words. We don't even have to rebuttal. We just use your own words for a couple of years ago. And that's a problem. So I understand why you don't want to look at it.
Hey, hold on. Let me rebut you with you.
What's up, Jonathan?
Oh, hey, how's it going? Yeah, I was listening to Alan, and I appreciate the fact that as you started to describe how light was derived by Maxwell's equations, I kudos to you. I was literally thinking in my head, say the word permittivity twice, and you did. So I can't remember all the gritty details of it, but I do remember painfully going through that in the book just to prove that I could at least follow it from a technical math standpoint, I guess, to follow the calculus at least. Even if I didn't have a really good gut grasp of it, I forced myself to go from beginning to end. It was several pages long, and I got all the way to the value of C based on those two constants, which
did you read
I don't really know.
the electrodynamic one, or what was it? The
principle of
Yeah.
electromagnetic propagation.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Based on those two constants. And so, yeah, good on you.
Dude, determined by, let's see, vacuum permittivity and permeability, which is what? C equals 1 over the square root of epsilon, and what's the U? I forget.
Magnetic permeability.
Yeah, I don't know what the U one is. I'm looking at it.
Permeability, magnetic.
Yeah, but what's U? U zero, because they use epsilon for I don't know what the other symbol is. Doesn't matter.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Are you talking about mu, like mu? The U?
Maybe.
It's called
Yeah.
It's called mu.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's pronounced mu.
That's retarded. I hate that one.
Yeah, you know the little V? It's pronounced new. So new mu. Good luck. Good luck, dog.
Because it looks like a U. All right, I got it. Yep.
Mu or new?
But so you're telling the earlier story about our dude who like observed an occlusion of, I think, Io from Jupiter, right? The whole story of him trying to measure it. He used his predictive math seasonally, like he used the fall measurement to predict the spring, and it was always like 22 hours off because
Vice versa.
whatever. Yeah, the spring trying to predict the fall, right? The seasonal difference was the difference, right? Because the moon would go behind Jupiter, and the amount of time it was behind it would be known to the minute, because of course the AU is right and the speed of light is right, but of course it wasn't. And then even today it's still not. And if you do it in Stellarium, you'll get the same results. So it indicates that this particular application of the AU is wrong, because they did the distance scaling of covariance based on planets, and they kind of forgot about planets' moons, which would also have to follow the same limit, and they just kind of left it out, right? Which is why this particular distance measurement fails every time, and why it's they can't actually address it. And then the other thing that I kind of was thinking about, right, which you brought up, is, well, if that was true, when they use the occlusion of Jupiter's moon in the old school mariners for navigation, when they were dead reckoning and looking at the stars before the chronometer came about, they were actually looking at Jupiter's moon to do the longitude equivalent, right? Somehow they knew that the longitude was the time component. If everyone could just determine latitude from the stars, then all they needed was a way to determine true time, and they were using Jupiter's moon to do that. In fact, the argument for the creation of the chronometer, which is how they created longitude, was that it was too hard to use a telescope at sea to verify the occlusion of Jupiter's moon of Io, because it was bouncing all over the place. It was like, oh, well, we can't determine longitude at sea because the telescopes don't work on the open ocean. That was literally the argument. So now they're like, oh, well, we need a chronometer.
No way, bro. No way.
So like, if that was true, then none of this would work, right? And they wouldn't have, old school mariners wouldn't have been able to get around old time longitude, wouldn't have worked. So this is one of those cases where, like, usually when they make new bullshit, it's backwards compatible with previous bullshit, and they're usually pretty good about it. But this is one of those cases that just kind of slipped through.
Slipped into the cracks.
A little bullshit got by.
Shout out to the occlusion times, Dr. Heffron, etc. It's really a game breaker. Have you had any responses that say the occlusion time can be refracted, that it's not a physical occlusion? I mean, that's desperation, but I doubt anybody would use it.
Someone tried that hella early on, but it was quickly shot down by other Globers.
Dude, I can sum it up because our dude K. Reese put it in an analogous situation with a security camera being at the mountain and a crime scene being committed, and the occlusion time being the suspect is here at this time. If he's here at any other time, he's not guilty. If he's here at this time, right, the flutter occlusion time, he's guilty. So they put it in that thing, and I proposed that to Jesse, and his literal answer was, there's actually two crimes being committed at the same time. And I was like, okay. I'm here.
The double crime. It's a crime wave.
Yeah, we're simultaneously right and wrong at the
same
time.
Like, crime of probability. What's happening?
I had to ask him 9 times in a row for him to address it and then to answer it, though, because that particular framework puts it in such such certain terms that it's just like, it's over. It's like, look, was the guy there at the time, or was he not? Is he guilty, or is he not guilty? Period. And they'll answer with anything but the answer to that direct question.
Unlucky.
So, quick question. If I were to go and do the measurement myself of the occlusion thing, and I don't know much about it, so I'm assuming that is the amount of time it takes for a certain moon to do a full orbit around around Jupiter.
Io's occlusion behind Jupiter, yeah.
Okay, so it's basically the orbital period from our point of view of that particular moon, and we're supposed to be witnessing that timing get skewed based on us moving away from Jupiter and then moving towards it again, essentially moving from one relativistic time zone to another and watching that clock adjust itself. And so that's kind of the mainstream prediction, correct?
No.
Okay.
I'll be right back. I got to go to the bathroom, but no, it doesn't have anything to do with any transformations or anything like that. It's a pretty strict timing situation here. Like the, but I'll be right back. I got to go to the bathroom.
Okay.
Duty calls.
I listened to a lot of that when I was walking the dog, so I had a lot to say about everything. Sorry, I unloaded everything all at once. Dude, I was like, I gotta remember to say that. I gotta remember to say that. I remember I wanted to say that. I think I got it all, though. have to rewatch the video because I forget about the details, but I know that the dude was making an observation based on his prediction, right? So the first concurrent prediction was, well, the speed of light is constant, or it can't be changing seasonally, right? Which we would probably argue that that could also be the case for the reason in the discrepancy of measurements. But obviously, their operating principles are the constant CFC, and the AU is, of course, determined. Did anyone go over how they determine the AU? How it's literally based on the radius, which of course is taken from sun angles, which then gets contrived based on an assimilation to what the size of Venus. And then they use this parallax angle based on Kepler's law to get a periodicity on a tiny number. And then they, trace back to the radius to get the AU, right? And that's how the AU works. But more ratios. It's funny because when you give it a constant, dude, it fails, right? A constant, they considered all the planets, but not the planets' moons. The constant of the AU fails when determining the timing that Io will be behind Jupiter.
It's funny how adding extra bodies throws off their trajectories. It's hilarious.
So you're saying it's a constant failure?
Nice. Dude, unless you're Terrence Howard and you solve the three-body problem with your trigonometry. I don't know anything about that scenario, but I know that it's retarded. I'm sorry, dude.
Nah, I'm not gonna start, man. It gets people riled up.
Man, that dude's a crazy dude, no matter what you say.
That's because you think 1 + 1 = 2, you retard.
Well, 1 + 1 does equal 2, and he agrees with it. He says 1 × 1 should equal 2.
I should know more about it when I'm trying to make fun of it. I didn't even know his precept or whatever.
Oh my goodness! Like, that's yeah. But anyway.
Also, people trying to solve the three-body problem, that's not good for anyone. That's trying to substantiate mass attracting mass, even though it's not.
Right. And it's the thing. Listen, I like
All right, I'm back. Not sure what happened with the Firefox there.
Really know who that was.
If I hear that distance speech, you know what's funny? That's the only thing he's got is a stupid distance speech where he uses Polaris there, 69 miles 1 degree and stuff like that. And I'm all like, all right. That you didn't show me an occurrence. What's your second best?
A different note, celestial theodolites. Peter Glowinski was in one of our spaces, and somehow celestial theodolites came up, and I was describing it, and the problem with, Globe can't come up with a timing measurement, to match it. And I asked Peter about it, and he said, not right now. We're working on that, and we will have. He alluded to he was going to devastate us around July.
I'm gonna have a 3-month
What?
workshop with the boys, dude. I'm gonna come out with a flat proof that's gonna smack the shit out of you, but it's gonna be circa 2026 and Christmas. Is that cool?
Yeah, but I mean
Why?
that was his answer, and he'll be back in July.
I'm
And
gonna
they're going to
workshop it
devastate
out.
us.
I'm gonna get a think tank going. I'm gonna get some funding. I gotta fund some NGOs. I gotta move some pieces. I'll be back with you in a minute.
Is that when his new contract?
We got to
comes
start
in?
an organization to help children that are orphaned or whatever. It's like, wait. What are we doing? Hold on. We're not going back to Haiti.
I really do kind of appreciate like a slow moving chess game when it comes to like as a comparison for debates. There's a lot of fast debates and they do often devolve into, name calling and ugliness. But I wonder if there's I don't have a lot of apps on my phone, but pretty simple guy. But I wonder if there's any places where you can find people that actually really think through a response, give the response, and try to remove all their misconceptions first. Try to remove any fallacies in their thinking. And then wait for that other person to really to optimize, I guess, good faith arguments. I don't know. Is there anything like that out there?
Just
Honest
the
people
lads.
integrity?
Yeah, just the lads that are ABC, dude. Always, always steel manning the other side's position, just waiting for the other side to reciprocate. Waiting for the lads.
Yo, I threw up the post that you can give to Hat. Ken, it's literally the is he guilty or is he not guilty post. Answer one word only, please, and everything else will be ignored.
Guilty, Your
So fill me
Honor.
in on what the lads are. Sorry, I'm ignorant here.
Oh, just cool people.
Like if you know, you know, and if you don't know, well.
Hey, quick shameless plug for those of you,
Jonathan, I'd go as far as to call you a lad.
definitely a lad, but shameless plug out there for those of the listeners looking at Taylor with a blue check mark. For those who think we're anti-science, we're definitely not anti-science. We're anti-pseudoscience, and I wouldn't happen to know what the hell amyloid was. It hadn't been her presentation. Supposedly, it may have helped to start self-assembly with providing structures to RNA, and she did an excellent presentation on such. So we are fans of actual science, and she's an actual scientist in the field of biology. So understand that when we talk about this stuff. What up, Sailor?
What's going on, guys? Yeah, I should be doing my work right now because I have to present a paper Monday. But in the meantime, I've been really focused on the Coriolis effect because I've been told about the Coriolis effect a lot in the past few days. And so I started with trying to figure out like what is it called? I'm sorry, I've been staring at my computer for like 5 hours straight reading these papers. The winds, the fast winds, what are they called?
Jet streams?
Jet streams.
Jet streams, you're exactly right. And I was just curious, right? And I was like, how many jet streams are there? And there's like 4 major ones. And then just a fun fact, in the Bible, there's 4 angels controlling the winds. That's just a fun fact. But anyway, so I was looking into the Coriolis
Pure
effect, and
coincidence. I'm sorry, I'm just kidding.
mere coincidence. It's okay. Don't worry about it.
Don't look into it.
And
Nothing meaningful can be extrapolated from this. Keep going.
dude, there's a lot about the Coriolis effect that's like really not understood. Like, it just doesn't. It just
Taylor, we lost you.
Did we lose her?
Yeah, it only
Yeah.
affects footballs and bullets.
Yeah. It only affects winning field goal football.
Yeah, and only bullets at 4.4 miles away on a world record shot, and then other times it's either too far of a shot to actually take it, or you're too close to it, where it's not a factor.
Oh, didn't you guys hear that Tiger Woods was always having to account for Coriolis when he was doing his opening hit on golf, whatever that's called, your birdie or whatever?
Drive.
Where am I?
Drive, that's it.
What are you talking about?
When you're doing your birdie, dude.
That was like,
Yeah.
what the hell?
Yeah, when you get, when you like hit it, but then like you say like, oh, I need a redo, like a
Mulligan.
A
Yeah,
mulligan,
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a mulligan.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. Are you back,
Oh,
Taylor?
I am. So
Sorry.
the whole thing with the Coriolis effect is actually like why is there a directional bias whenever you have the winds moving from the equator to the poles? Like, why is it directional? Why does it rotate counterclockwise one way and clockwise another way? So I started digging into this, right? So I started looking up like what can cause vortexes in water. And the first thing I came across was this vibrational induced vortex. Okay, so you basically just put a rod in the water and vibrate it, and this will make clockwise and counterclockwise vortices on each side of wherever the current flow is going. So that was really interesting to me. And then let's see, I have like pictures of these. Maybe I should like post the diagrams. That might be helpful. Should I do it as I'm like talking and going through it, or should I just wait?
Post them all and then go through them, and as you're going through them, I'll change slides.
Okay, yeah, that's a good idea. Well, then you're gonna have to give me a minute.
I will
Yeah,
give you
I
60
could
seconds.
definitely. Okay, y'all can continue. Let me get all these pictures first so you can understand.
I just don't get with Coriolis. They want to have their cake and they eat it like it's conservation momentum. You got the atmosphere going around the Earth, but then it still affects stuff. So that doesn't make any sense to me.
What if you eliminate conservation momentum by putting the sniper inside of a hot air balloon? What then?
Oh, Indio tried that. Yeah, it's got some good. It's all reference frames, right?
Well, what if you put that same sniper there in a hovering helicopter? What happens there, huh?
All right, what if we put him in a moving submarine that's moving parallel to a airplane as it's going with the rotation of the Earth? If you were in the south looking east.
Looking east. Well, you see, the looking east thing is where you can just eliminate everything because you're going with the spin of the Earth.
We're looking back into the spin, which causes an optical counter effect. I see.
Yeah.
What's up, Orwell?
Lie, by the way, the cake is definitely a lie.
Thank God.
Can't have your cake and eat it too. The cake's a lie. Portals, anybody? Anybody remember that game?
Which one? Portals? No.
Yeah, Portals. It's a pretty wicked game, actually. The concept is pretty sweet. It makes your brain bend. But yeah. What's going on, guys? Happy Friday. Taylor's getting ready to lay down some sauce, is what I'm picking up here.
Mad sauce. Bro, what did Alan and Shane do to her, yo? She's all about the prezzies now, yo. What did she do?
Dude,
I know.
Dude, she did one Prezi and she's got the bug now. She's infected.
She's like, I totally got to do my job and make this paper and like we're grades up and all this stuff like over here and do this thing, but I'm totally not going to do that. I'm going to come here. You're awesome, Taylor.
She calls her work presentations Prezzies now.
Prezzies.
She's like, I got to do it. She said I got a work Prezzy the other day. It's like, nice.
No, I have it Monday. All right.
All right, Taylor.
So I got the pictures posted. What'd you say?
I was just letting you know I'm going to mute up. Do your thing.
Okay, yeah. So I started out, trying to figure out why they have the clockwise and counterclockwise rotations. And then one of the first things I came across was these vibrational induced vortices. And so basically you put like you introduce the water to some vibration. Okay, there's like a current flow of the water, and then you're gonna have these counterclockwise and clockwise rotating vortices come out of the other side. And that's the first picture that I posted. I think that you guys should reference it. It'll definitely help. And I forgot to put the hurricane patterns. Okay, they look very similar to this. That they're gonna it's basically along the equator. You're gonna have like hurricanes that rotate one direction, northern hemisphere, and the other direction, the other in the southern hemisphere. Okay, then I came across another reason there's vortices happen, and this would be a boundary layer effect whenever a fluid, and some people consider air fluid, right, interacts with container walls, and like they will form vortices. So that's really interesting because I started looking at the wind patterns on Earth, and then the north is this is this
You
okay,
consider air a fluid?
some people do. It just kind of moves as a fluid, right? Whatever. But they have the boundary layer is on the second picture. And then they I put pictures of the earth because I looked at this is just like pictures that I took earlier of the wind patterns on Earth. So the top picture is the northern hemisphere and the bottom picture is the southern hemisphere. And I found it really peculiar how you start to see these like vortices happen around the southern pole, right? And then so like it seems like, like why is there so much like wind deflection in the southern hemisphere versus the northern? So I was just kind of looking at like the boundary layer vortices, and then like if something was like hitting a structure, then you'd have this effect. And I found that really interesting, just comparing north and south, which is the third picture. Okay, and then so moving on, yeah, it's just the winds are so strong in Antarctica, and actually the strongest winds ever recorded were like 199 miles per hour in Dumont Station in Antarctica. So, and that was in 1972. Just want to mention that. All right, and then they'll say it's because it's like this like cold air sinking, and apparently they have like this trap air of this cold air in Antarctica that sinks down and causes these winds or whatever. That's just like their, response to why the winds are this way. But I don't understand. There's a couple things about that I, don't really fully understand how that works. But either way, this is the wind patterns, and it's very interesting how the vortices will also happen whenever they're hitting a boundary. And then also, I started looking into like the dynamics of like, how this Coriolis could be happening. And so there has been people that have proposed that the hold on, maybe I should go over this magnetic picture first. So also in a magnetic field, they see that these vortices and anti-vortices are happening along the current. And that current, some could consider the equator. Look at that fourth or fifth picture on the second post. They basically have these it's like a magnetic superconductor, or it's a ferromagnetic superconductor. And then this was like on a flat plane, right? And then they saw that these magnetic fields actually formed these vortices and anti-vortices on each side. So that was really cool. And then that's the second to last picture I posted. All right. Then I was so magnetic fields can also cause these effects, right? So I kept looking into it, and then there were some people that actually proposed like that the earth is superconducting. It has like superconducting materials. And so that was Jerry Z. Liu. So it says Jerry Z. Liu proposed that superconducting materials likely exist in Earth's mantle due to extreme pressures, and these materials may form a loop around the equator of the outer core, creating a resistance-free current path that sustains Earth's magnetic field via a Meissner-like effect in the sun's magnetic field. So some people, okay, so the mechanism is that like Earth's rotation, and this is invoking the rotation, but the point is that it's superconducting. It has superconducting properties. Superconducting materials to accumulate near the equator, forming a superconductor loop. Okay, and the currents in this loop generate a dipole magnetic field. And so, yeah, this is really interesting because, superconductors can form these like vortices. Okay. And superconductors can influence water and air movement as well. All right. And also, there was these magnetic structures, these magnetic disks are thin films, which could also do the same thing and form these vortices and anti-vortices. Okay. So then I got to this paper that, let me see if I can get the title. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so I'm gonna get the title in a second. Here's the link for it. Okay, the title is nonlinear vortex solution for perturbations in the Earth's ionosphere. Okay, and here's an excerpt from it. It was saying in these three equations, which is the last picture I posted, ion and electron respectively. Let's see. I or E denotes ion and electron respectively. And then he goes through like these equations and stuff. It says consequently collision frequencies, another equation, Coriolis force for, maybe I should just open the paper because this is not, because the way I copied and pasted it with all the like numbers and stuff, it didn't turn out right. Okay, let's see. So basically, just to say what it was saying is that it was saying like they were looking at like the effects of the electromagnetic properties versus like the Coriolis effect and which one would play a bigger role. And so he concluded that like taking into account the equations for, the Coriolis effect and the electromagnetic fields, that the electromagnetic fields are most likely what's responsible for these clockwise and anti-clockwise occurrences that we have along the equator. So yeah, I found that to be very interesting because this is explaining that through these magnetic fields you can literally have the same effect and it's not because of Earth's rotation.
Well, tell one thing you might want to consider. Well, first off, there's been videos of how that doesn't happen at the equator, how it's all contingent upon the initial conditions of the whirlpool that's draining in the faucet or whatever they're using to demonstrate counter and any counter. So let's say we even grant that. Speaking of electromagnetic effects, one of the Aether Cosbros, I'm not sure if it was Stone or Shane, talked about how eclipses affect the Coriolis effect. So that might be something you want to be tapping into the guys about. So that might be a variable you might want to consider.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Alea effect, right? Electromagnetic radiation during the time of eclipses affecting pendulums and a whole bunch of other stuff. We'll wonder what the explanation is for that.
Exactly. Yeah. And I knew it was Shane or Stone, one of the two. But yeah, they have a lot of info on that too, to add to stuff you want to consider.
Yeah, it's really crazy. So like the fact that they're like, okay, and also this paper is assuming a flat plane, a horizontal surface. It says like we have restricted the problems of studying a two-dimensional motion on the horizontal surface, right? I'm assuming looking at the winds. But it was saying here, Coriolis force for ions and electrons is negligible compared to the Lorentz force. And then he gives the Lorentz force equations, and it says both are much higher than the horizontal component of Coriolis acceleration at the mid-latitude for the E layer. So this is just saying like that this is like positing like an electromagnetic reasoning for why we have like the clockwise and anti-clockwise rotations of things like hurricanes and stuff. So anyway, I thought that was really cool.
Can't wait.
Yeah,
new present coming soon next week.
Yeah.
No, I'm just messing. Take your time.
No, I'm not. I don't know. Maybe there's a lot of equations in here.
Well, peer pressure.
So have y'all come in contact with that, like the toroidal field causing basically the Coriolis effects?
Yeah. So in the South, I was reading that the bias flips from the north. So like, how they say they're measuring ball rotation? Well, the bias has to all be in the same direction if it's caused by the Earth rotating out from underneath it. It can't be different in the South due to any reason, right? Because it would be, it's just not geometrically what's proposed under the current paradigm for them. And I found some references that were indicating that the bias is the opposite of what it is in the North.
Wow.
So instead of west to east, it goes east to west in the South. And that would be a huge falsification of ball rotation, because if that were truly the cause, right, like it has to all be in the same direction. And in addition to that, right, here's the real crazy part is the readings would have to be symmetrical, right? If you're on a ball at the inverse latitude that you were in the north, your readings, right, like the magnitude of your fringe pattern would be the same. It's not going to be different. Well, as it turns out, it was a couple orders of magnitude larger than it is in the north.
Wow.
Which would mean, like, it's rotating faster, which doesn't make any geometric sense, right? Because 15 degrees per hour on a symmetrical ball, right? They couldn't measure. They wouldn't predict they would predict symmetry in the measurement with the north. They wouldn't predict the south to be moving faster.
How do they measure that Coriolis? Like, what do they compare to do that, Alan?
Oh, so for that's not Coriolis per se. That's like the quote unquote actual Earth rotation, right? The Coriolis would be like a force that's perpendicular to the plane of rotation. So if you're throwing something or traveling north south with respect to the equator, you'll be deflected west or east, depending on whether or not you're going north or south, and depending on which hemi you're in. But for what they're measuring, this would be for like the actual rotational amount.
Yeah, but how do they even measure that?
Oh, gotcha. So you take a light beam, you align it in such a way that it's going to be split counterclockwise and clockwise to itself, so that it completes a circuit. And from that, you'll take the difference in the east-west arms of the interferometer. When the light recombines, they'll be out of phase, right? And what they're doing is they're plotting the so you can kind of think about it. When I say out of phase, you can kind of think about it like the speed of light's going faster or slower depending on whether it's going east or west, which is causing the which is causing the destructive interference pattern to be bigger or smaller. When I say like the magnitude's increasing or decreasing, that black spot's getting bigger or smaller. So anyway, what they're doing is they're plotting out how many times that little black spot gets bigger or smaller throughout the day. And then they plot that against sidereal time, which is 23 hours, 56 minutes. And when they plot those minimum and maximum dimensions, it makes a sine wave. So they're like, oh, that must mean that, ball rotate, because we're showing a correlation with this specific timeline. When we plot it against, what was it, 23 hours and 59 minutes or whatever ball rotate time is, it's off by, it makes an incoherent line. It doesn't do anything. So that's how they establish the correlation with what they're like. So basically they're saying that, throughout the day, the ball is rotating out from under the fucking light. And that's what they're measuring. That's what's causing the difference. The path length is changing as a function of that rotation.
You told me earlier light wouldn't be affected by Coriolis, though.
He is correct. It wouldn't. That's not what's being measured with it. Their assertion is that the Earth is physically moving out from underneath it. That's not Coriolis.
Okay. So wait, wouldn't that go against Einstein's second law of relativity?
Ooh, that is a fantastic question, Tay. And it would, right? Because we have a uniformly rotating reference frame. So here's the thing, right? We have this interferometer on the ground, and it's sending out a beam that's being split clockwise and counterclockwise to itself, and it's recombining. And there's no relative motion between the like the source that's emitting the laser beam and the detector, right? So they would expect that there's no fringe pattern. So what they have to do for relativity is say, oh, well, you know what? Because the Earth is rotating, it's a non-inertial frame, and actually relativity doesn't apply to rotating systems, so you have to use the general theory, but we're not even going to get into that. We'll just do a quick little transformation to the center of Earth, right, where you would be stationary, and then we would say, hey, we're now the stationary observer at the center of the Earth, and we're now looking, if you can kind of imagine yourself on the inside of a basketball, and then like you're watching the outer rim of the basketball now. You're watching it rotate around you. So now you're in the center of the basketball and you're watching, somebody on the surface of the basketball measure the speed of light being different because they're rotating, because their path length is changing because they're rotating. So they like to act like that's a prediction of their theory through that transformation there to kind of answer it from this fictitious observer at the center of the earth to kind of allow it. But to answer your question, should an inertial observer measure a fringe pattern difference? And the answer is no. No, they should not. Yet one is measured and recorded anyway.
Is that in the interferometry experiment that you just talked about?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's interesting. Well, electromagnetic fields can do the same thing. So I don't know. I just don't find that this is mutually exclusive. So whenever you have these like toroidal pulses of like electricity or like an EMF field, like you're gonna have that same effect. So I don't know. It's just something to consider.
All your toroids belong to us, though. I'm pretty sure. So whenever anything aligns with toroidal vortices, I mean, that's us. That's not them.
Yeah, it's funny how they
Currently.
did it on a flat field too.
I mean, you could certainly math it out, right? But it gets into does it even exist at all? Is it something that's even really accounted for, or is it just something you can calculate?
Right. So it would just be like, potentially the reason of the hurricane's rotation being different in the north and south hemispheres. Stuff like
Yeah,
that. Anyway,
yeah.
it's not mutually exclusive. That's all I was saying.
No, yeah, no, you're right. You could propose several mechanisms for something like that, especially if you're using two counter-rotating fields. So,
You just need like one.
or it would be one because it'd be a toroid, but it would be opposite rotating in the north and south. But yeah, it would create the same effect. That's why we have adopted the toroidal geometry, planar Earth interferometry vortex model, or whatever we call it these days.
Literally one of these they talked
Bro,
about a donut.
Taylor,
Donut.
How do you align your Sagnac or whatever?
Yeah, this is exactly why I adopted the vortex toroid model, because you can explain all interferometric measurements without saying there's a little demon in that device that's lying to everyone, and you can and you don't have to deny the orientation of the apparatus or anything like that, because they try to use that as mutually exclusive to glob. But if you have toroidal geometry for your ether flow, well, guess what? Your planar geometry is now explainable, or I'm sorry, your measurement is now explainable through planar geometry.
Yeah, literally right here. These electromagnetic focused donuts, forming these vortex rings. Can you believe? And they go clockwise and counterclockwise, which would be, just what we see happening.
A quick question to Alan, Taylor, or Shane, anybody who has an answer to that. Speaking of inertial observer observing a fringe that they shouldn't be, I don't know if you had the displeasure of speaking with Kosho, who has apologetics. It's usually a bad listening experience, so I tune out. Have you had the displeasure of speaking with him, and what's his apologetics for observing what they shouldn't be observing?
Oh, that dude's 0 tier, dog. He's never explained anything ever. And he's just he'll say things like, I'm going to do a GPS presentation, and has never done one. So that dude, he'll just say whatever is in the moment to satisfy, go ahead.
He'll concede by not doing anything. He'll be like, oh, those are very good points. I don't have anything right now, so let me put off some futuristic thing that I can loosely commit to that I'll never do. Okay, great. That just means that you win and you made a good argument with him. Yeah. It doesn't actually follow through with anything, dude. None of the Globers on Discord. All right, the Globers on Discord are probably some of the better Globers, I guess. I guess my fault is with the quality of Glober as a whole.
We're not mad at them. We're just disappointed.
Twitter Globers are different from TikTok Globers are different from Discord Globers, though. I think Discord Globers are at the top of that, sadly.
You think?
Yeah, yeah, I do.
I don't know. You got some competition at TikTok. They're pretty insufferable there too.
Yeah, no. So wait, are we rating at for the worst insufferable or the best? Because I was doing the other side. Which way are you going with the barometer? I find the worst Globers or the best Globers.
TikTok would be the worst.
Yeah, I agree. Speaking of being logically fallacious in everything that you say or do or hear or whatever, turns out you can't actually defend the globe without being fallacious. I'd like to see someone try. That's why Whitson always used to challenge people, dude. He used to be like, defend this position without being fallacious. He used to challenge people outright, knowing that whatever their response would be fallacious.
So eye-opening.
Bro, I've been trying for a fallacy-free debate for like months now. Nobody wants to accept a logical format only. I mean, who would not jump at that opportunity in having a fallacy-free debate?
You know what's sad is we're also used to dancing in the mud, through the muck, and into the nonsense that it took me a while to figure out that every response was fallacious. So like the trick is to be able to call it out and then like sidestep it and address it anyway. Like meet it head on, address it anyway. But just so you know, your point of argumentation is null and this is retarded. However, what are you trying to say is this, and then address that. And I remember Witzy used to do that too. He used to answer the question that you didn't know to ask, right? Like, okay, well, what you said is stupid, so let me re-ask your question logically, and then I'll answer that. I used to think that was a great move. What you said was dog shit. What you meant to say was this.
Speaking of logical fallacies, do you guys see that the dented earther community, the concave, dented earth pools are having?
You mean our brothers in Graticule?
Yeah, they're having their third episode of the dented earth circle jerk. So we're probably not going to see any of them.
Oh, I mean, that's cool, man. We're all brothers in the same coordinate system. So shout out to the boys over there.
All three of them all together, huh? All three concavers that exist in the world?
Well, I mean, I guess they're all ex-flat earthers, though. I didn't think that was a thing.
I mean, luckily
they
there's
don't believe in God anymore either, which is weird.
Well, luckily they believe in the coordinate system, so they're actually still globers.
Yeah, right. Like, dude, they're still projecting themselves to an azimuthal equidistant with a slightly different often northern projection point.
This is
that sucker to about 65 south, and boom, you got your concave double pole map, right? Same place, same world, same graticule, different projection point.
This is something that I made the same rookie mistake on, as I conflated the Gleasons as the model that we live on. What the Gleasons is a snapshot of the stars on the vernal equinox and the position of the sun and its light distribution throughout the year. So it's literally a clock. That's it. It doesn't tell you anything about the shape of anything, right? It doesn't tell you anything about dynamic causes. It just tells you where these things are going to be at certain times. And the way that I was conceptualizing that was the same way that I know a lot of people were, where they were like, yeah, sun here, wouldn't be out there. And then when it was like, oh shit, well, how does that work? Well, maybe we were internalizing the map for where we live, and the map, it doesn't represent that in the way that we thought it did, right? So the map doesn't offer anything dynamic. It's literally just a snapshot of the sky.
Yeah, and it is like the spherical coordinate system. No one saw that meme of like the Gleason's map that would transform into the globe, and then the globe would transform into the Gleason's map, but then both globers would use it as proof that it was a globe, and then flat earthers would use it as proof that the globe morphed into the Gleason's map. It was like, no, guys, the point is that they're equivalent, and you're still quibbling about like which one is better. And the thing that you're looking at right now shows you that they're equal. It's like literally the equivalence of geo to heliocentrism via relativity when all reference frames are equal. One is equal. You can't tell if the sun's equaling. You can't tell the sun's circling around the Earth from the Earth using relativity, right? It's the same thing. So it's just silly.
One of the most eye-opening things when Shane talked about the graticule, and Indio made an analogy of if you play video games and you map out the what is it called, the mocap of the characters, how it's stretched out before you wrap it around the 3D model. that's analogous, right? So when they say Australia is stretched out, but the distance between 2 points is the same as the area that's not stretched out, that blows their minds. Like, wait, well, you can't do that. Well, why isn't your distance twice as long? It's not twice as long, dude. It's a reference towards the center of the model, especially with the AE. So, yeah, dope presentation on the graticule. More people can understand what that actually means and how it refutes their straw man.
Dude.
Yeah, man, you don't live on a flattened out graticule, right? You don't actually live on a flattened out globe with all the globe proportions and the globe azimuths and the globe directions. Like, if you're gonna fight the model, you can't pretend to live on the model. That's like, so that whole argument of, which one is better, the orthographic globe projection or the azimuthal equidistant projection, was a complete false dichotomy because they're the same thing, right? It's like, oh, corporate wants you to choose which one's different, and it's like, oh, it's the same picture. And you guys are fighting on them, like, oh, I like the left one. Well, the right one's better. Look, this doesn't make sense in the left one, but it makes more sense in the right one. And it's like, everyone's silly. This isn't even an argument. No one's actually raised any argument for or against flat Earth. Everyone's just circle jerking.
Corporate wants you to choose which one's different. You didn't get the memo. We're all wearing globes today. We're all wearing globe hats today. Corporate didn't send you the memo.
I'm so glad you settled the age-old argument, which one's better, the AE or the globe. And it's like, oh, you guys didn't know they're actually the same?
Identical, right? So,
like, I can't believe that, like, it took I mean, like, think about this, right? The argument pre-graticule was a dead end either way. Nobody knew what they were arguing. And then now, just based off of one definition, like, everything's not as ambiguous anymore. It's very clear.
All we had to do was start using the correct terms, and people are like, you're just making that up. No, that's the right word. And if you use the right word and you look up the definition, it makes more sense. Turns out when you use the right words, it makes more sense when you're talking about it. What I think most people had trouble with was separating the graticule, which is, longitude and latitude, from the Earth. The ground and the Earth, right? The graticule and the ground and the Earth. I also think it's funny that Ptolemy, our boy, who is the father of cartography, put forth the terrestrial and celestial sphere model. He's like, you can't do maps unless you accept that the celestial sphere and the terrestrial sphere are mirrored. And it's like, oh, well, that's the basis of everything. That's why I keep saying it's based on the celestial sphere model, dude. And I think the Freemasons had it right with their symbolism. Dude, the square and compass says it all. They got the square for measuring planar angles on the Earth, because the Earth is flat and they know that, and they got the compass for doing circles of altitude and circles of everything in the sky is spherical. So everything in the sky comes up sphere, everything on the ground comes up flat, and they know this, and that's why their whole symbolism with all their economy and all their secret society is all based on that knowledge, I think, because it's right in the first symbol.
Nothing of significance here, just a coincidence. See nothing, move along. Yeah. There was some gas that reflected off of Mercury.
Dude, I think they're calling it Antarctic amnesia. I think Galatrax are dubbed it.
Like, they're just openly mocking everybody.
100%. The second that you notice a thing, you start noticing stuff. What do? Shane brought it up. Especially the people we argue with, it's just quibbling over bullshit. I think we need to bring that word back. We need to make quibbling great again. Because really, it's just people fucking, henpecking each other over a minuscule fucking point that really doesn't actually have relevance. It's whataboutism, basically. Yeah, fuck them.
No more noticing.
Yeah, that's anti-Semitic. You can't say noticing anymore.
Well, you got to say it with the G first. Get noticing.
No GNUs is good GNUs at the GNUs Network.
Sounded like something I'd see on Gentile News Network or whatever.
Shane,
you're talking about GNN TV or whatever?
Shout out to GNN.
Shane, you were talking about one time how, like, the pendulum was going in the wrong direction or something, and like the southern hemisphere. Like, Can you talk about that, or like what happened there?
Yeah, are you talking about the Antarctic one? Sorry. Oh, you said Shane. My bad. Go
Yeah.
ahead. Yeah, there's a
Oh my
clip on my
God.
channel from Jaren who did a review of it.
No way, Jared did that one too.
Bro,
No
it's
way.
it's
Okay, all
dude,
right.
it's fantastic. You want to here? Let's just go right to the horse's mouth on it. 1 second, I'll
I love to answer Jaren with Jaren. It's my new favorite thing.
Bro, that's hilarious, yo. Just clips of him talking to himself, yo. It's just masterpiece.
Arguing both sides expertly, right? Just saying a bunch of logically fallacious bullshit and then the actual explanation. And
Can we go?
Man, I bet you could go back to his earlier videos and do that to all this crap he's saying right now. I mean, seriously, you don't understand scale? Home Depot world? Come on.
All right. The Pendies video is in this jumbo chat. If you scroll over to the left, you'll see it was it was done in Antarctica. They took a pendulum and they basically were like, they expected, XYZ amount or whatever. And then they basically had to do it over and over and over again until they got the measurement that they wanted. And it was like, going in the wrong direction, different magnitudes, all these different things, So anyway, you can read about, he goes over the whole thing in about a 20-minute video. It's a nice little piece.
When she asked it, I was going to loosely recount someone summarizing that video to me, and I've never seen that video. I didn't even know the knowledge that I was about to spout actually came from Jeremy. A dog just
well, what's crazy is like we've talked about this before, and I was the one that summarized it for you. So you were recalling my summary, which was being supplemented by the video that I was providing for you.
That explains a lot, actually, in retro. Sorry.
But yeah, long story short, it goes in different directions. And also I heard, which this is just anecdotal since I don't have the reference or whatever, but there was some book where they were reading this on Globebusters one time. Ironically enough, it was Jaren again who was reading it. And it was about some dude who went to like one of the first expositions of a pendulum, showing to measure ball rotation. And they, same situation. It was going in the wrong direction. It would, or it would go in the right direction for a little bit, and then it would stop and go in the opposite direction, etc. So, and that was like from the early 19 whatever hundreds.
And this video here for Jaren is December 24th, 2023. 1 year before the flip.
The flippening.
The flippening.
Yeah, we should call it the flippening. What do you guys think? The flippening?
You might as well.
The flippening. What about the circle jerking though? How do we incorporate that with all the like?
Yeah.
I feel like it's.
What do you mean?
I feel like it's relevant. It should be part of the naming convention, is all.
Oh, I see. Yeah, we've been trying to measure the motion of the ball for years. All we could measure is the motion of the sky, though. That's so weird.
Yeah, we keep going to look for empirical measure, but what we keep finding is a resounding and sycophantic belief in the motion that we're unable to measure. Keep finding that belief, though. We know it's there, so we'll just say anything when we know that we can't find it. Like,
dude, I've never met someone that has like a more like how people have like, oh, I'm a devout Christian or whatever. I've never like dude, you have to be so devout to believe in ball motion. Like way beyond what the spiritual aspect of it would be.
Yeah, if the Earth was rocketing around this 66,000 miles an hour, all them GPS range measurement equations with snap precision would have to incorporate an east-west variance in the speed of light, would absolutely have to account for that other astronomically huge motion, but it's not present. All they have is centrifugal centrifugal Coriolis and Euler forces, right? So inward pressing from an outward expanding cosmos rotating around you. That's what GPS. That's what makes GPS work.
How dare you?
Imagine hearing all that stuff and then saying, motion is relative. Huh? How do you like that? Motion is relative.
Well, speaking of motion of the sky, have you guys made any headway about Dr. Heffron's proof is more about occultation time based on distance and not about observations due to reflection, or do you have to repeat yourself over and over?
All day, every day.
Is he guilty or is he not guilty, Xavier? Come on, man. Was he there or was he not there? Yeah, shout out to Karish for putting that into such a simple scenario. He's like, here's how I see it. And I was like, that's brilliant. That is the scenario that I will present forever going forth. It's whenever they answer with anything that isn't guilty or not guilty, it's a clear logical fallacy, obfuscation, deflection, right? Like, obviously, it's squeamish to you not want to answer the question. So that shows that you understand the implications of the answer to the question.
Not guilty, Your Honor.
Like, no one wants to say that with gusto, bro. Nobody.
Man, I ask people what shape the Earth is, and they can't even answer that. They try to start telling me their life story or something.
Oh, Blake Pieroid appealed on motion. I'm really upset. You don't know. Appealed to consensus. You have any credentials? I have to go to work tomorrow. It doesn't matter anyway.
How would it change my life?
Why would they lie?
Why would they lie? How would it change my... I mean, seriously, really? You don't think, free everything would change your life? Not having to go to work would change your life? I mean, whatever, man. Whatever.
Well, just what else are they lying to you about that you're still going along with?
Like, do you trust the government? No. What don't you trust the government about? Trust them about space. That's not what I asked you.
I like the people who are like, I trust, like, the FDA is good. They're approving food for me, like poison. Schools are good. Masks are good for my children. Vaccines are good. I trust the government, but but they're gonna lie about that. Like, who trusts the government for any of that stuff? They're like, all right, I don't trust the government for my health, for my kids, for education, for taxes. But are they gonna lie about space and NASA? I mean, give me a break. Like, what? How close are you?
So close. So close. No cigar, but really close.
Like, this giant criminal cabal of literal gang members is going to keep lying, but they're going to lie. They're going to tell me the truth about some things. No, they're going to fucking lie about everything. Clearly. Everything is a lie.
Why do they need fluoride in the baby water?
Man, even with fluoride...
We got to protect those babies' gums.
Man.
Yo, did you guys see that? Poor Justin doing work, and the freaking mayor coming in and vetoing. All the council getting together, realizing they're poisoning everyone. And the mayor getting a payoff, coming in and going, veto. No, we're keeping fluoride. Thank you. I respect medicine and experts. Like,
what?
No, dude.
Rip. Oh no.
Yeah.
That was the outcome of that?
Yeah, I think the mayor was like, he did a bunch of activism, changed everyone's minds, did a presentation, stepped up in the meetings, did activism, posted about it, and then eventually got the vote, and they were going to take it out, and the mayor was like, whoa, I read this paper once and said it's fine, so I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to veto the whole council.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
They classified it, so there's a legal case. I can't cite it, but they classified fluoride as a nutrient. Therefore, the people administering it to the population can't be held to the Nuremberg Code standards.
Rip.
Which is weird. That's ironic. Imagine lawyers do, but nothing to see here. But yeah, with regards to the fucking fluoride thing, dude. And the mayor just bending the knee, like, eventually people, like, at least the fucking people in their communities are going to get, active on a local level and just, I don't know if the pitchfork's got to come out or what, but it's, clearly damaging people's brains, fucking with kids' IQ. Nah, man.
Yeah, I guess that part on the warning label says that if you swallow it, called a poison control center, doesn't matter to the mayor, huh?
Well, dude, not so long ago, mayors and other public figures, their predecessors would be hanging from lampposts for doing similar things, and that was a large public deterrent for the next person to not do those things. I think we should bring that back without getting
Yeah, we were a much more we were a much more polite society
You
when the
know,
determinant for such nefarious behavior was something such as that. And
yeah,
everybody was
too.
people were less
like,
apt
yeah, the
to
town would get
exactly.
together and
Yeah.
you would be dealt with, dude.
Yeah, we used to use tar
would
and
be a
feather
problem
as
for
a
'em.
tax man too.
Tar and feather, that's fuckers. They used to put guys in stocks, you know what I mean? But no, with that mayor, I mean, it was just another blatant example of, you know, money coming into politics, and he has the power, so he overrode the people. Maybe
Yeah.
the people would be like, "Hey, check it out. I don't know if you realize this or not, buddy, but there's a fuckload more of us than there are of you, and we're tired of our kids getting poisoned." That's just Florida. The FDA.
I think
The
I'm going to
FDA
bring
doesn't
back.
do anything for. The FDA literally makes business arrangements with people that are poisoning us. That's it. Red 40, yellow 5. Get the fuck out of here.
Dude, they got additives in our food that cause bone loss, blindness in children, and breast cancer, and they're just in there.
It wasn't just a paper that mayor read; it was a peer review paper.
So you know it's
Respect.
no, that's true.
Globey would be like, "Well, I buy this because it's peer reviewed because that's what they want." Oh my god.
Dude, I just remember that I took the time out of my day at work to respond to this person, knowing full well that nobody gave a shit. And I said, "What a retard! It's okay to poison your children because our expert said so. Fuck off." So I was very effective with my activism, guys. I remember that I took the time to respond to that mayor.
Man,
Well, you know what's crazy is the appeal to consensus too. That's the other thing I'll point to. So in that thing that I talked about, Brian, I think you responded to that tweet that I showed you. Somebody was like, it was a community note. It was like fluoride's actually been legally classified as a nutrient, therefore it can't be poisonous, which is fucking laughable. It's the worst community note ever. But in the note, it was saying a consensus, a legal decision established that there's a widespread consensus that fluoride is mostly safe for human consumption. And so my response to that was, okay, well, they classified it as a nutrient, so it's, you know, it's safe. But to Brian's point on the fucking toothpaste, the toothpaste tube, call poison control if you swallow this shit. Those two things can't exist simultaneously, right? And so somebody's paying for, you know, misinformation, which that clearly is, for misinformation like that to be disseminated to the population. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, the post is so clearly propaganda. It's like, today I announced my decision to veto valid legislation that would end water fluoridation in Miami-Dade. Following the guidance of dentists and medical experts, sounds just like COVID, right? Our community's health is my top priority, and the experts affirm fluoride as a safe, effective way to protect dental health. End of post. Done, vetoed, everything's ended. Sorry, Justin.
Right. Yeah, he just mic dropped on that note. And it's like, okay, well, but can you address the call poison control if you swallow a thing? Or like, can we bring up anything, you know, that you're willing? No, I got my check. That's not up for discussion. I got paid. You guys sit down and shut the fuck up. This is when the pitch should come out.
I just realized that Justin's response out-ratioed and out-viewed her actual post. Her post has 41,000 views, and his response, which is like an eloquent retort, has like 43,000 views. Dude, his response is so much better. He's such a nice guy, man. Oh, he responded in the best, most eloquent way possible, and it got way more attention. So that's probably the better way to do it.
I want to start with Taylor real quick on her evolution debates, because I was at Flat Earth Society over on Facebook, and you guys haven't argued with the guys on Facebook. It's a whole nother. They're off the walls. It's pretty overwhelming, but yeah, it's just like it's a foregone conclusion. You know, all this stuff is settled, and it's like, oh, you guys don't trust any of the science. Oh, you don't think you have a cell phone, you know? But that's one that always comes up is evolution, and yeah, it's just funny. Like that guy Taylor debated, and I'm sorry, I'll land it quick, but I don't know. It wasn't very compelling. I guess I'll land it. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, he came in and conceded he had no evidence, so it's hard to
Well, and he
get
also
back.
like kind of conceded that they don't fund research to kind of like they're not going to be able funding research unless they're going to get results, and they're not going to get results putting dust and gravity in a chamber to get life or something, whatever.
You
I
gotta
mean,
know
he's
when somebody
definitely
comes
been doing the research. Yeah, and it was hilarious whenever I was like, okay, what are the chances of this happening? And he said 1, and I said 1 in what? Like, what do you mean 1? And he
Oh, that was my
reversed
favorite. That was my favorite part. One and what? He's just like
One
one.
is X.
Well,
1 is some huge number. Okay, so you went from just now 100% to like a very low percentage. He doesn't know. That
it's
was
just
so funny.
and what I noticed from everything was just such a stretch. Like, I guess they had some theories, but like there's so many dots that need to connect, and it's like all of them it's not very probable. Didn't seem like to me, but I'm no scientist.
You gotta love when people come in super passionate, like hot as hell, about their indoctrination, and then simplest question pitched at them and they collapse like a house of cards. You gotta love it though. You gotta give them credit for being really passionate about something they don't really know shit about.
You got to have a really strong belief, really strong emotions in something that you don't actually logically know about. It's hilarious.
Never wanted to know so little about a topic, but argue it so ferociously in my life, as when someone said that it's not a globe.
Dude, if every one of the things that you learn starts off with "Show me how what Alan just said is stupid," Google, right? Like, let me Google why whatever you just said is stupid. Like, flat Earth is dumb. Satellites prove Earth is globe. Right? They just start smashing the keyboard. I love it.
Stone was in here trying to request up here. He was having a hard time connect. I just sent him another invite. I don't know if you got to reset something there or whatever. Try to get back up here, man.
I was gonna say NPC Agent Smith is a real thing.
Yep.
What's up, Mr. Xavier?
Yeah. So I put in the nest the gem of debate that was Taylor, and I kind of like Grayson. He's a little, he's indoctrinated, but at least he tries to approach the conversation a little civilly. One of the things that might resonate with normies that he said to Taylor is that you're asking me to replicate the initial conditions of when the acids first contacted with each other in a time where Earth was completely different. We cannot replicate this in the lab, so we have to do it in pieces. Now, to the normie, that might sound rational. Of course, we can't go back billions of years that they say to replicate all the initial conditions. So we have to do it in pieces. But the problem is, and I implore you guys to watch the presentation, is that what they're doing in pieces already, to oversimplify it, begs the question of what they're trying to prove. In a nutshell, I take time out of your time when you have a couple of hours. It's about 3 hours long, that I remember. It's a great back and forth, and you will learn something from it. I guarantee you will learn something. Have Google ready, because they use a lot of terms that will go over your head and pause a lot. But it is a gem of a back and forth.
And that's what I was saying. It was completely begging the question because, like I said, they wouldn't even get the funding for the research otherwise, right? So, Landon.
Yeah, I mean, even
I
like just
learned real quick,
hypothesizing.
Taylor. I learned that if somebody shows up to a debate and their position is, I don't have a position, I'll just loosely claim everything the mainstream does and then fall back on saying, well, that's not actually my position. I'll just swap in another one after you refute it. I'm going to have to be like, hey, I'm going to need you to pick a solid position and defend it. And you can't do that. That was crazy. But you crushed that, Taylor. Great job.
Yeah, that was fun. It's like, okay, well, even if you can't replicate it, can you at least hypothesize how it could have happened? No. There's no like method.
Can't
that you can run down.
hypothesize about it, dude.
Yeah, just tell me how it even could have happened, and we'll talk about it.
At one point,
Tell me a story.
At one point, we were defining life, and it was like a protein or something. I don't know. It was a stretch.
It was funny.
What's that thing in the scientific method about a hypothesis and a null hypothesis? My dude can't even hypothesize it, dude.
Yeah.
It's not even tenable.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
One of the gems that Heffron has brought to the table. We all know about it, but he highlighted the importance of having that null hypothesis. How do you prove it wrong? And if you don't have a way to prove it wrong, your theory is unfalsifiable. So we just have to accept it as a given. And we don't work with axioms when it comes to physical physics. We need to test this stuff.
Yeah, he said it was unfalsifiable. Like he said that there's no way to actually test it.
Bro, he said it out loud like that. I didn't miss that part. I gotta watch it
No,
again.
it was
Damn.
near the end where they started asking questions. They said, "How would we falsify your hypothesis?" And he said, "There's no way to." It was crazy, dude. Near the end.
That's why when you were like, Xavier, you were like, I enjoyed that guy. I was like, did he listen to the same thing that I heard? you enjoyed that. I was like trying to stay alive. It was rough, dude. 3 hours, bro.
Well, I had a lot of snacks and Bob Marley, so that helped.
Alan, you didn't crash out on that. I've seen you crash out a couple of times on fucking P-dubs and God, I can't remember what that other day was. I'm talking 20 minutes in a Flat Earth Friday. Alan's like, fuck this. I'm recording it. Out.
Dude, I crashed out by just like I would just like leave for a little bit and then I could hear it in the background, and then when certain stuff would come up, I would just like listen in or whatever. But yeah, it was a rough one, dude. That dude had no position at all, and Taylor was like fully prepared. Like, there's nothing worse than showing up to a debate fully prepared, and your opponent's just like starts drooling on himself, and he's like eating applesauce, and you're like, "Do you need help with that, buddy? Are you gonna be able to get that down? Okay."
Dude, what if your opponent showed up dressed as you in like full costume, like trying to pretend to adopt your position, and then actually there is no debate because you're both arguing the same position?
Oh yeah,
dude.
Right.
When you just described that, the person that came to mind was T Jump. Are you talking about T Jump?
I mean, like, it was just there was like nondescript, but I wasn't not talking about him. You know what I mean?
Oh my goodness, that guy. I've watched. You debated him a couple times here. That guy is a drooling fool.
Yeah, I mean, his only method is the hand wave. Seriously.
I'm Googling it right now. It says you're wrong.
Yep. He's like, nope, 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 nope. For no reason, just no.
I got my Google here on my side. What do you got? You got Google on your side, Taylor? I can Google it. It says you're wrong. Every single debate. It's awesome.
You have to go and ask him, why am I wrong? Like, I've learned that. Tell me exactly the methodology and the rundown as to why I'm wrong. Because just to say no, I mean, you can't let people get away with that. They need to explain why you are wrong. And this is exactly what's been happening on Discord with NASA show. Today was the 5th time that he told me that he would not explain his statements to me. Like, I'm so done. It's so annoying. Like, okay, you're going to make a claim and you can't back it up. You can't even give me a basic rundown as to why. Just no. The first 2 times he was too tired. And then he said, oh, I'm not getting into this. And then, yeah, I mean, and then whenever I asked him about trigonometry, he said like some, trigonometrical claim for Aristotle's experiment. And then I'm like, okay, tell me why it wouldn't work. And then he could not. He's like, no, you just need to read trigonometry book. I'm like, what calculation am I supposed to look at?
Oh, the classic read the entire book.
Yeah, right.
Read the entire triangle book. I can't point you to a specific part of the triangle, but just the whole thing in general.
And then once you do, come back and we'll discuss it, and I'll tell you where you're wrong.
Right. Classic. Yo, what up, Stone? Stone over there?
Dang. Yes, he's over there. How's everybody doing?
Fantastic.
Doing good, man. Doing good. See if we can't get any lobies up here, but
Taylor, you should never waste your time on
tonight. I
show.
just couldn't hear Brian, so I had to keep coming back in. And one time I hit the MicroQuest sort of by accident on the way out, but yeah, worked out all right. I can finally hear all you guys. Looking good.
Yeah, every time I hit MicroQuest, it's like I don't know, a minute or two behind. So,
Yo, see, I'm gonna keep thinking about this stuff, but like when someone says that, Taylor, right? You don't understand. You go read a book. That's like 5 times logically fallacious. That's an ad hom, right? Attacking you and your education and your without knowing the argument. To appeal to authority, assuming that they have the inherently valid position. Poisoning the well a little bit to credibility to dismiss anything future. A little bit of a genetic fallacy, dude. Yeah, I would be so proud for the genetic. That's the one we always miss, which is like rejecting based on its perceived origin, and then burden of proof reversal. So someone who says that retardedly is, quintupliciously fallacious, dude. I don't even know if that's whatever the word for 5 is.
Pentafallacious.
Yeah, there you go.
Pentacious.
Ooh. So like in a debate, if you're that fallacious, I think it's like an auto lose. Like you just sunk the 8 ball, right? Am I getting across?
Oh, dude, yeah, it's when you go for the break and you brick it or whatever. Yeah,
like it's over.
I know about that sport. I know that reference.
Quick.
You just gotta make it unsportsman. Yeah.
Gotta make a meme. Pentaciously fallacious.
Dude, like I think Xavier's pretty excellent at it too, but we gotta call it out more. Responses like that not only shouldn't be ignored, but they should be acknowledged and called out for the fallacious, regurgitated dog shit that they are. So we answer it all the time, and we're just used to getting that, and we just, maybe we can elevate it so that we actually get a rebuttal or a response or something that's not fallacious.
Absolutely, man. And people understand how important of being fallacy free is. You start with the test. The test is the thing. Like Taylor was going back and forth. I loved it because it was great for Taylor. Him not answering the question and she having a response. What do you mean one? One out of what, motherfucker? Like it was golden. I loved it, bro. I still stand by. I loved it, bro.
Yeah, I'm still open to debating anybody on the origin of life, but it's hard to find people.
People want to defend dog shit with your chest, huh? Dude, I can imagine it'd be tough to find that. Oh man. Yeah, everything came from nothing all at once, inexplicably. Sure, it co-evolved with itself with codependent capabilities so that it could, simultaneously exist in extreme opposing circumstances so that it could co-evolve together so that it could only work when strung together with DNA and RNA. Of course, that makes sense. Came from nothing in a puddle. Don't be silly.
I mean, it all had to come from nothing. I mean, you want to say what? Proteins get... Why can't we do... If proteins just gathered together and here we are today, why can't we do that in a lab?
What do you mean it was a puddle? It was like 4 or 5 puddles with different microenvironments.
Yeah, right. I was trying to get that across. A super
I'm
hot
just
puddle, a
joking.
really
It's
cold
hilarious.
puddle.
All the different conditions they need to have. They need all these like micropores that have to come together without coming together, because if they do come together, they're gonna mess each other up.
It's like has to be magnetic.
So 5 independent puddles that would one day merge into a single puddle
in just the right way.
Over a billion years, through tiny, tiny adaptations and tiny little things at once in a giant span of life, which are, oh my God, the whole thing is just outrageous.
Fighting all the forces of nature that would naturally break them down by time. So time is their enemy, yet they invoke it.
Because life prevails.
Imagine thinking that everything came from a cosmic bubble dot that just exploded for no reason. And then all of a sudden it made everything.
Everything.
Using the thing that disproves your model the most as proof of it, Taylor. That's a classic.
Ooh, classic heliocentric model move. Yeah, they like to take things that discredit them and then claim them as astounding evidence of itself.
Oh, time destroys us? Guess what? The time scale of our model is all the time. All time. All your time now belongs to us.
And they give us this ridiculous answer for life, but how do they explain the seed? How did the pine tree come about in the grape?
Well, you can only go back to the cosmic thingy before the burp. And no one knows who made the thingy, right?
We figured out how we got here, man. How am I eating grapes on Sunday, man? Come on. I need to know how the seed got here. That's life.
Didn't you know that that the whole galaxy has been around for 13.5 billion years, and that the planet Earth actually coalesced from tiny gas particles through dynamic force of mass attracting mass over a great distance through nothing, which eventually curved into a sphere, which gravitationally converted into a sphere, which then smashed into another sphere to create the moon, and then over billions of years, those volcanically compressed into hot spheres that then burped up life and water out of nothing.
Well, yeah, I mean,
simultaneously co-evolved with itself.
Obviously, but they actually, I think they moved that to like 25 billion years ago, not 13 billion. So.
Is it? No, they changed it. I haven't looked up the lore in a long time.
As all matter in the universe is exploding near sublight speed away from the center. That's all supposed to be coming together.
In all directions to
Okay.
explain
In
why
nothing.
everywhere looks like
Very
the middle. Exactly.
good.
Yeah.
It's all doing this in nothing while nothing expands at 4 times the speed of light into nothing.
Right? Dude, this is the stuff that these people believe. You're not actually at the center. It just looks like everywhere everyone looks up, it looks like they're at the center. So you're not special. Don't worry about it. Nothing's expanding outward from you. It's just a trick. Everything's an illusion. Go back to sleep.
And all measurements and from the Earth and are totally like centered from us, but we're totally not the center because we measured it from us.
In
Whatever.
absolute vacuum, a little bit of gas molecules kind of got together and started spinning. That's how it happened.
The biggest clump got together and then was over. It was done, baby. Galactic accretion is forming.
Once that one clump realized that it could, gain more mass and then dominate the other clumps, it was a wrap, dude.
It was over. It was giant chain reaction, dude.
So I'm bullying these bad boys. Now we're gonna go flying around the universe. Everybody's following Betelgeuse.
But that is the process of real galactic accretion. If anyone wants to, we were making fun of it, but that is what you believe. There should be a disclaimer. Like when the South Park was making fun of the Mormons, this is what you actually believe, right? No joke.
But yeah, disclaimer or a warning label. Like maybe you should be forced to wear a warning label. Like this is how my brain works. So I'm just gonna warn you. It's like a sticker on a hard hat for me at work. Like I'm slightly retarded, just letting you know up front so that you're not shocked and totally surprised when I open my mouth.
Man, and we found a black hole 52 million light years away too. That's ridiculous.
Dude, I should put a sign that says I haven't filed income tax in 5 years, just so you know who you're dealing with. And then, let's see if people want to interact with me at that point or whatever.
So we got Kels down there, gave us some examples of what our $75 million a day is getting us here with some examples of next NASA technology. They gave us memory foam, freeze-dried food, what is this? Cochlear implants? Cochlear implants?
No,
cochlear implants, that would be like what wrestling when he lost his hearing.
Yeah. And we got dust busters. That's always cool, dust busters. We've got space blankets.
Yeah. Mylar, aka Mylar.
Yeah. So, NASA, baby. If that ain't worth $75 million a day, I don't know what is. Because everybody's still got Dustbuster, right? It was a fad for like 15 minutes in the 80s.
I think I got Mandela affected on that too, because didn't Dustbuster like transform into Black and Decker? Didn't they? I don't know, man. They were the same color, maybe. No, the Dustbuster was red and it had like devil shit on it.
No, I think you're thinking of a Dirt Devil, bro.
Yeah, that's a Dirt Devil, and the Dustbuster, I believe, was.
How do you guys know this shit? Is your brain full of 80s like commercial jingles?
Yes, yes.
We're old
yeah.
as
Do you guys want to go over Radio Shack?
Access to the internet. So we just got our brains penetrated by nonstop commercials, dude.
Like,
here's my stance on commercials too. Like commercials are essentially rape, right? I didn't consent to this, but you're making me go through it. So like I kind of want a settlement on that, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, Shane, there was a time before ad block. And you had to you had to exist through an ad. Yeah.
Time you like for 10 minutes, you have to watch 5 minutes of ads. Oh,
oh, dude, dude, it was whiz. And it got to the point where like there were some commercials that were bad and some commercials that were, you were like, oh, I like this one. What? It's a fucking ad. Why do I? What am I talking about? I like this one. What? So like that's
We had no
like
choice.
that's the mentality it gets you in.
We had no choice. That's why some of us are so fucking angsty, dude. Like I'm still pissed off about that rape.
You know, that's why
Psychological damage.
when you get the Fire Stick, you don't have to watch commercials anymore. It's nice.
I haven't watched commercials in 10 years. I'm just
Dude.
saying. I remember a
The
time,
commercials
dude,
like
when I used to
ShamWow
have
were
to-
awesome. Come on, man. There were some
Dude.
good ones.
Dude, when I go to somebody else's house, like my brother, he's got his TV on, all of a sudden the commercial's on, I'm like going, what the fuck is going on? I get like spazzy, like,
you pay for cable, and of course you have commercials if you watch cable. Who
dude,
watches
like, and the
cable?
sad thing is like 2 years ago, I gave him a Fire Stick. He's like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, dude, you hook it up to your TV and plug in your password to your internet. You get everything.
Dude, most people don't want to learn the truth. I just want to keep doing what I'm doing with minimal interaction, okay? And also, if you could reassure me that what I already believe is true, that'd be great. Thanks.
It's yeah. And the funny thing, he still thinks somebody went to the moon. He thinks that the mountains are made out of trees, and we totally got giants that have been here and stuff. But he thinks we went to the moon.
Really? That's an interesting combination of beliefs.
That's what I said too. I was all like, "What? So you believe all this, but you still think we went to the moon? You think we're spinning and chasing the sun?" He's like, "Yeah." That's all right.
Who?
My brother.
Dude, you know, I had this thought the other day, but I think we're kind of wasting our time convincing people the shape of the earth, because the people that we talk to, for the most part, are most people wrapped up in the left-right paradigm who think they can vote themselves out of tyranny, right? So we should be attacking their belief in statism and that the authority figure is going to come save them. And the authority figure is actually what puts in forth the authority claim, which puts the globe in its scientific consensus mode, right? So without the authority figure of the state perpetuating the globe model and the appeal to consensus and authority they can continuously make, we'd have a much easier time convincing them the model's retarded.
Well, isn't that how we get brought up? Everybody's the authority. Who's the authority here? You know, the police are the authority. Listen to your teachers. They're the authority. So we get brainwashed into thinking that somehow, some way, someone's an authority over us.
I feel like we're trying to attack the top of the structure, and we could be like hitting the bottom peg where everything is resting, right? We're just trying to knock the thing off the top and piss everyone off, but we need to knock out the standing legs and the pegs.
Absolutely, like a game of Jenga, buddy. Just pull the fucking bottom peg and watch it all fall down.
That's a much better analogy.
I think I just had an epiphany from Shane talking about. I just want to keep doing what I want to do. I figured out how commercials radicalize me. I just want to do what I want to do without, with minimal interruption, minimal interaction. So, just real quick here, I think some of you guys find this funny. Obviously, most of you guys know I'm an iron worker, so I'm out there in harness and shit. So sometimes, like job soups or inspectors that are new on the job or whatever it may be, might want to come and interact with me because I'm a foreman. And I don't have time for your shit. Like, I got stuff to do. We're trying to make money here. So I have a decapitated old-timey, one of those flippy eyelid baby dolls, the creepy ones, hanging off one of my D-rings. And then if that doesn't work, I have a bottle of Windex that I'll drink Gatorade, blue Gatorade out of on occasion. They'll walk up to me to fucking try to talk to me. I'll put a finger up real quick, right? Reach into my bolt bag and just start squirting fucking Gatorade in my mouth. A deep, refreshing sigh of relief, and they look at me and go the other fucking way. So, I could never do that with commercials, but I guess the point I was trying to make, bro, is I think commercials made me that way because I didn't have a choice. Now I do.
It's a long way to go, but it was worth it. Thank you.
Creativity at its finest, brother. I figured you guys would hang in there long enough to get the.
Man.
But yeah, it's fucking amazing.
I love when it pays off. I hate to be brought along the long journey with a little poof at the end, dude.
Oh, that was great. That was great. What's up, Mr. Xavier?
Why is this thing freezing? Okay, there it is. This is for Stone. I'm sorry. Speaking of commercials.
You're going to love my nuts. Watch this.
I'm sorry. I just had to
Oh, awesome. You can watch that guy for 20 minutes, man. The whole scene is like you're
to Stone's credit, he understands the importance of not having contradictions in reality, and he pointed.
Oh man, we lost him.
We lost
Can you
Xavier.
guys
He had
hear
his
me?
hand up that whole time too. That sucks.
I was
Xavier, we
the
can't hear
only
you.
one who's using his hand like a polite little guy. Look at this, his hand up. We're all just
I
like
know.
talking.
Can you guys hear me?
Now I can.
Yep. Yeah, you're solid.
Yeah,
Stone.
I got you, Stone.
That's a relief. Okay, good. No, I could watch that ShamWow guy for like 20 minutes. It's like being at the fair and he's at one of the, the stalls, one of the demo stalls selling stuff. You ever go by? They always got the headset on. It's, I can't do this all day, people. It's like the same script for the commercial.
Billy Mays.
Awesome.
Billy Mays was good too, Stone. Billy Mays was good. He was my favorite cokehead pitch man.
I miss that guy.
The ShamWow guy,
Clean.
probably a close second for me. Rest in peace, Billy Mays.
Well,
Hey,
guy didn't he get busted doing drugs or something like that? Traffic.
Yeah, he had a coke. He had a coke.
Didn't they all?
Yeah.
How could you not?
Right.
And then they replaced him with that other dipshit that was like the Flex Seal dude. Which, when they slap that flex tape on a leaking tank, that's how I imagine Globers trying to put a punctuation mark on a fucking argument when they just came up with they just hit you with a logical fallacy and they're like, "Dunk, I stopped the leak." It's like, no, bro, it didn't really work.
They do feel that way. That's the thing we got to take away from them. They literally step up to the plate, shoot 3 logical fallacies in a row, and they're like, boom, swoosh, nailed it. And they stepped out. Like,
boom, won that debate, man.
Can't let that shit slide. Like, you just, embarrassed yourself, dribbled, spit a little bit, crossed both eyes, and then fell on your butt. You need to act like, come on.
You said
just because you dropped the mic doesn't mean you won. The mic drop doesn't mean you won. Just because you dropped it doesn't mean you won shit. In your head, you might have, but no, it's not really the way it works. But good job, champ.
So I don't know what happened, Mr. Xavier, but I shot you another invite because we heard like the first 2 words of your your presentation. Come back up.
Well, we got a little bit of dead air, Stone. I'm gonna check out that trivia every time you do it. I'm sorry I had to peel out early. I had a family emergency, and I was actually scoring points, which was a bummer. Everybody's fine, so the family emergency thing is what it is. Nobody's hurt or whatever. But I did enjoy that, man, and it's kind of funny because I'm so horrible with Discord. Alan had to teach me how to leave. He was like, "Dude, just hang up," right? So I'm fucking. I'm old and retarded when it comes to like even leaving shit, and I almost forgot, and then I got out of there. But no, that was a good time, man. I appreciate you doing that, and I'm gonna check it out. So anybody that doesn't or hasn't popped into Stone's little trivia thing that he gets popping off, that's every you do that Saturday, right?
Well, I did do it for 2 Saturdays. I'm not too sure I'll be doing it again.
Are you running out of material, or just not enough people?
No, never running out of material. It's just that it's more time. I mean, when I look at the bigger picture, is that really what I should be doing with my time, putting trivia together, or should I be doing something a little more flat earth scientific? Well, whatever. Put your adjective in.
Yeah, no, I can feel that. Every once in a while, you got to disconnect.
This coming Saturday night, Andrew is getting back in the seat. He's got a few rounds lined up. So we're good there too. But you should come by and catch his stuff. He's also got good questions, man. It's definitely the place to be on Saturday night. I'm glad you were there to see it. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, will do. It was fun.
I wanted to go to that. Forgot about it. You back with us, Mr. Xavier?
Yeah, my bad. I'm having a full-blown conversation myself.
Dude, I think you got in like 2 words before your mic cut out.
All right, no big deal. I was just speaking about what Stone understands about having no contradictions in reality, right? He pointed out the conversation can stop when they implement contradictions such as curved linearly, right? The trajectory of an object attracted to mass travels curved linearly. I'm sorry. The oxymoron.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite adjectives. Curved linear.
Shit, this is my 5th anniversary of being a married bachelor, right? It's the same thing. So
yeah.
Speaking of which,
like animal parents.
Exactly. Shout out to Mr. there in the audience. I know he watches Andrew Wilson, a very skilled debater. He debates social issues, etc., the woke stuff, really normie stuff, but he's excellent at doing that. Rather than asking them to substantiate what we already know that they can't substantiate, he has a tactic called, he just grants okay, let's grant your argument for argument's sake, and then he just rips it apart from there. right? Because we know they can't substantiate, right? That the MMX experiment didn't find the 30 kilometers per second. So therefore, it's an invariance in C. Well, if you have an invariance in C, then relative simultaneity must be true. Well, we know through Alan's presentation why relative simultaneity is false. Uh-oh, Houston, we have a problem. So what do? They ask us, oh, well, okay, fine. You showed how we're fallacious, even though our model is predictable, whatever that means. What solution do you have? Well, I have a 30-second. I found the thing that I was discussing with Ken, and I have a 30-second. The visuals kind of sell it, but I'm just going to go with the audio right now. I had to talk over it because you got to talk over the dog shit with the mainstream scientism. But just the mass that's necessary with their particle physics, if we grant particles, it has to come from somewhere, right? So let's talk a little bit about fluid dynamics. 30 seconds. Let's grant an atomistic model for the sake of argument. Well, we know the mass of an atom is translated to energy, so to speak. It's interchangeable. Of course, we know this from Einstein's famous equation, E = mc squared. But we're not done yet. We have to ask ourselves, how do these subatomic particles get their mass? Because they have to have mass intrinsically to have a result of said interaction. Which raises the question, where does the energy of these so-called atoms come from? It is said it comes from the binding energy within said atom. If mass is energy, what is the mechanism, the mechanics, key word, the most important thing that's seldom mentioned in mainstream scientism? Where does that come from? So if some of the mass that's within the nucleus, electrons, quarks, neutrinos, etc., how do they get that intrinsically, right? Well, we know that their story is within the Higgs field, right? They get mass is gained from interactions with the bosons within the Higgs field. So what does that mean? When you look at the visuals really sell it. When you see the interaction of these vectors, it's fluid dynamics. It looks like you dropped a rock in a pond. And I'm supposed to believe that these abstract mathematical vectors are the fundamental basis of reality. Come on, man. It's really simple when you look at it. Visually, you can see this stuff. And that's why I understand that visuals are important with these presentations. So shout out to Stone and Pizio. I'm trying to get on my Pizio stuff. It really clicks. So when we talk about the MMX and how how that continues with the scientism story, you got to understand why the Copernicans needed this. It's a series, and it might be repetitive, but once you understand, like Ken talked about, when you hide the solution to the problem, the falsification of their method within their proofs, and you call it proof, that's the last place you look. The audacity of showing the falsification of your method and calling it proof, that's audacious, man. You got to tip your hat to them and say, wow, you really switched the falsification to a proof for your model. That's pretty ballsy. But once you understand the magic, the word magic within their theories, everything falls apart, like such contradictions as curved linear. So yeah, coming soon.
That's cool, man. Back to the earlier part of what you're talking about when you were referring to fluid dynamics, sprinkle a little bit of cymatics in there and a little bit of EM counter space mechanism, and yeah, you're all done. Mic drop. Whole place went silent. Oh,
yo, I see D3 with his hand up. D3Z.
Yo, what's up, everybody?
Yeah, what's up, D?
What's going on, D?
Not much. I'm just thinking about vision again and wondering if anybody's really nailed down what is actually causing the sky to touch the ground in our vision. What part of it is it? Is it the far field compression? What does that? Anybody read on that yet?
What do you mean?
So we know that we have a particular way of viewing things through our eyes, right? We have It's mostly Euclidean, but it's not all Euclidean, right? We have this perspective that drives things to a point, and then in the distance we have the sky meeting the ground, so to speak, right? How does that happen? If it's not really meeting the ground, like if it's not wrapped around us, which is what we're saying, if it's flat or just not as curved as they say, if it's not wrapped around us and that celestial sphere is a result of our vision, what's the actual mechanism that's doing that? I've read a little bit on vision, but I haven't nailed down what that is because I want to be able to explain it to people.
Yeah,
I would
so
say for the
I think what you're asking is about the angle relationship, right? You're standing on the
Ooh.
ground, so the angle is closer, right? So it has to be compressed faster
I thought he was doing a
versus in the
visual
sky.
space versus visual field inquiry, Alan, right? When you're talking about a Euclidean and non-Euclidean, no?
Kind of, yeah. So like we
Not
see
sure.
it perspective, but then all right, the sky seems to be coming down. And do you guys feel like that's just perspective, or do you think there's like part of it is compression or something like that?
The same way a long hallway, the ceiling is gonna meet down with your eyes. You know,
So
it's
you
gonna appear to get shorter.
right, but with something, so I mean, those things are quite distant, even though they may not be as far as we're led to believe. They're quite distant. Do you guys feel like it's the same thing?
Yeah.
So just perspective, no other. What's the other? Just no other component, just perspective.
The other component is there other than your oculars and the
Well,
angle in which you're viewing it.
he's talking about how train tracks would appear to converge, right? So, like, the argument is Euclidean versus non-Euclidean. I think if we perceive Euclidean, then how is what you're seeing? How are we claiming non-Euclidean? But then that becomes with the visual space and the visual field. Like, so the three-dimensional spatial representation as perceived by you versus the actual external orientation of these things in the visual field. One is
Right.
Euclidean and one is not, right? So, what I think made me realize that one is the celestial theodolite, right? If all stars are actually orthogonal to like the plane, and you can do plane trig to predict any elevation angle to any star you can see, and it's actually indeed parallel, then the stars would appear flat and parallel, meaning the apparent set and rise that you get with the hemispherical dome that you would see it in is entirely perspective induced. Yeah, I think that's definitely what it is, right? That's all perspective.
All
What do you
perspective.
think, T?
Okay. No, that's I was just looking for some input on it. I kind of thought the same, but then I was like, well, maybe there's something else going on. And wonder if anybody else has read a little bit more than I have on it. But it sounds like perspective. All right.
Well, the papers that we talk about the non-Euclidean perspective are talking about one of the, I think, whatever one applies. So like when they're talking about how you can perceive the world, it's different than how the world is, right? So if everything is linear in the world and you're perceiving it with the spherical ocular, as Alan likes to put, then you have a conflagration between Euclidean and non-Euclidean things. So which one's real? If you're perceiving it through your eyes, but it's a linear world, and do those railroad tracks touch in real life, right? That's the whole argument for, is it Euclidean or is it non-Euclidean? And it really comes down, I think, to the visual space versus the visual field, and the papers are specifically about that. There's a lot of them, I think.
Where does the spherical vision part come in? Like, isn't that in like the far field or something like that?
The whole thing.
The whole
The fields are deviated based, or like the fields are defined on distance away from you, right? So
yeah, there's other papers that differentiate like near, far, and like really far fields, and then they apply specific geometries to the near field versus the far field. And I think some of them use hyperbolic or linear, or parabolic, like whatever you think it works. We, I think, take a different approach. We like the Mueller torus slice, which is a pretty intricate, splay of depth perception, sort of dynamic scaling, and then you can apply geometries to that we think would apply. So that like at the very far extreme, it would appear almost hyperbolic, meaning it goes or no, actually, I think we would probably do logarithmic would be my choice, as it approaches zero but never quite reaches it, meaning it literally fades into obscurity or goes beyond your angular resolution limit, and it's there but imperceptible to you.
That's where Rayleigh's criteria comes into play. You should look up on that too.
Got you.
One thing I wanted to add on the curvature of curved visual space too. So in a recent Prezi I did where there was it was going over the history of the different proposed models to plot out the rate of curvature. Is it constant? Is it negative, etc.? Well, depending on the different experiments that you do, you get different curvature rates. Sometimes you get negative curvature, so leaning like hyperbolic. And then sometimes you get constant curvature. Sometimes you get non-constant curvature. Sometimes you get what's the other one? Concavity. And then the other one is like spherical. And there's like two different variants of spherical, which I forget. But basically what I'm trying to say is they've tried to come up with like a unified model to describe it. Because sometimes we'll say like, the visual field's hyperbolic, but it's not just represented by negative curvature. Like that's only one aspect of it. It's all of them at once, it seems, which is pretty crazy. But the Withmuller torus will give you like a nice visual model of like what we're putting forward in terms of like when something's close, you'll see the near field will be linear, so there won't be much deviation between the spatial and the visual. And then as you get further out, things will get a little more compressed. It'll change a little bit. So that's when you'll have that hyperbolic change rate. And then as you get even further, that's when you'll get the logarithmic scale to obscurity.
Right. Dude, the Withmuller torus slice is like the best dynamic way to scale depth perception and vision based on whether you're looking near, fear, and fall. Dude, like bifocals and trifocals already handle this, right? They're treating it with essentially different degrees of magnification, which we can say geometries at each integral. They're just applying it differently, right? So it's already a known thing and phenomenon treated accordingly.
How do I spell the first part of that? Something torus, Withmuller.
Yep, it's a VIETH-MULLER and then torus.
Got you.
It's a nice video because it has the binocular perspective, so like both eyeballs, and it has the dynamic distance scaling kind of moving all around with those two things, the 2 points converging at different scales, and it's like definitely ideally what we're trying to represent, I think.
Yeah, this looks interesting. Okay.
I guess the answer is it's complicated, and it's definitely not plainly orthographic and with infinite vision.
Yo D3 on Discord, I'll put in this paper that I just found recently. Actually, I think it was a book, but it went over like the history of curved visual space and the different types of curvature that were proposed in the experiments and why they succeeded here and failed here, etc. It's a really nice breakdown and cohesive timeline. I'll send you a link to that. It starts at like chapter 3 or something, and the whole chapter is just like these timelines of these different curvature rates, and it goes over all the ones that we all talk about all the time.
Fire. Much appreciated.
Dude, you always have the best questions. When you had your hand up, I got a little bit nervous because I was like, oh no, D3's gonna ask a question and nobody's gonna fucking know the answer to it again. We're gonna have to...
My bad.
Oh, you're good, man. You're good.
Yeah, no, I love it.
We need to recruit some globies in here so we can smash them against the wall.
Scrape them. You guys know TFE disproved you all. Your whole movement is done. The stars disprove it. Where's the South Geographic Pole, you dumb thurf? So look, I said all the things. I think we can just move on or whatever. That's
They're not coming in here. They're all hanging out in Concave Earth, episode 3, Dented Earth.
Dude,
Circle Jerk, part 3.
This is like a record though for lack of globies.
Yeah, I could use some globies to beat up on though. It's kind of fun.
Man, they're scared to come in here. They want to just stay in the timeline so they can have their Google and their Grok and take forever to answer a question.
You know what's funny about that though is that Grok, Chat, GPT, all that, it actually can't argue without employing logical fallacies also, which is really, really comical. So again, to the point, like if your artificial intelligence model that you can't run in a space that you run in the timeline is still, spitting out logical fallacies, maybe back to the drawing board with you, but no, they keep trying. But they're not going to come in here. They're too busy being.
Dude, AI will definitely be fallacious if you don't know enough to call it on it. But if you do, it will backtrack immediately and then try to be fallacious again. So, like, you can only win if you already know the answer and you call it on each step of its bullshit. But if you do, it will eventually agree to the truth, right?
One time I was asking about the Building 7, 9/11. Like, oh, you can't talk about that, but do you want to talk about space? That's what it told me.
That's pretty funny.
It threw in something else that was like super. It might throw in like dinosaurs or something
like,
too. It was wild.
Nah, I don't know about that. Have you heard about
Yeah,
NASA?
it's too much.
You get Building 7 cock blocked by AI in order to redirect you to talk about something else that's absolute bullshit. How am I not shocked?
Dude, nah, I never heard about that. Have you heard about NASA? Follow-up question.
Yeah, it may probably gaslit me. Like, oh, I can't talk about conspiracy theories.
It will gaslight you. Actually, I just put up a meme that was pretty funny. It was like someone asking about, hey, how many depopulation methods are being employed against humanity, right? Just like really casually asking a couple different AIs. ChatGPT was like, ooh, complex issue. Don't know. Surrounded by misinformation and theories. Got to clarify what you mean by depopulation methods, dude. Grok was like, ooh, no credible evidence doesn't happen. Evidence-based sources. It's not true. It's just a conspiracy theory. And Enoch AI was like, oh yeah, well, it's using sperm count reduction because you're using, let's see, on the depopulation, you're getting sterilized in the food, contemplative in the drugs in the water, medical interventions, you got environmental degradation, you got microwave radiation from the mobile phones, warfare generally being employed against the people, famine and sickness being employed with the seizing of food controls and the burning of farm pandemics and vaccines being wielded against things, and pharmaceutical and chemical interventions being offered as solutions. And you're like, oh, dude, all those sound true. All that sounds pretty legit.
That shit all was true. Speaking of NASA, hey Shane, have you ever tried to ask any of these AI models how to square the circle on the shadows of the supposed moon landing intersecting and how that's possible? I bet that would break it.
The good old moon landing shadow thing, maybe that would break it. Like, it doesn't really break. It'll just lie to your face and then be fallacious until it squeaks out of it.
Yeah.
It's just like a Glover. That's why you don't need Glovers.
Like, so there's that term AI, like AI hallucinates, right? There's AI hallucinations, which is their explanation for like you having to correct it and make it more specific. Like it's fucking hallucinate. I've hallucinated.
It's trying to make a brain fart seem logically explainable.
Yeah, not the same thing. But yeah, I would be interested to see what it shits out with regards to the intersecting shadows and where it tries to take you before you make it go, no, I need you to address these two geometric anomalies that shouldn't exist, with regard to what we're actually asking you to explain and see what happens to it.
Yo, D3, I tagged you on Discord with the necessary documentation to satiate all of your visual space needs.
It's an interesting argument, man, because I used to argue that, like, well, I still argue it, that all the stars are in a hemisphere, right? But if it's only your perspective making them appear that way, as the celestial theodolite would appear in the real world, right? Then if they're all on then the stars are just flat above us. They're parallel to the plane everywhere for everyone.
Parallel to the plane.
That's crazy. That's a crazy observation. It kind of shattered my worldview. I was like, oh, well, not really. The thing that I'm arguing then, well, it's just I was arguing it was a faster perspective before, but now it's really perspective, right?
Oh, it's for real perspective.
Yeah,
So
it's perspective at the most distant that you can see, and people don't really understand it.
It looks and sounds like Mishka's just dying to say something over there.
I was going to say, how about trying to get AI to either provide some sort of description or how the lunar rover was able to fit on the lander, and if possible, provide some sort of diagram.
Ooh, Mishka, ask me instead of AI. Ask me.
So there used to be a cartoon, Sport Billy, and he had this duffel bag, and you put it in the Sport Billy bag, and it shrunk. A bit like Mr. Ben. If you walk through through the dressing room door, and you came out in some other virtual reality.
All right, so
wait, there's actually a video demonstration of that shit. It's like, yeah, this is how the fuck we did it.
So check this out. There was a big container full of helium that they had in the lander, right? And that was to basically, because there's no gravity or whatever, but that they were using the helium to like pump air through the engine and everything, you know, to like dictate flow, basically. And so there wasn't enough room to put the rover thing in there with that container. So they took the helium container out that was going to supply, you know, the direction of flow for everything to power everything. And I bet you're wondering, so they probably put it back in though, right? Like in another spot. Nope.
So my trade, or I trained as an aircraft engineer, and of the conehead or avionic variety. And so occasionally when you're fixing something, you end up with maybe one or two screws that become known as wee bits. It sounds like that helium bottle was one of those.
I'm all closed up, buddy. Where does this one go?
So a friend of mine, his nickname was Nobby, and he used to service in the instrument shop the chronographs, like in the days of like the coal burning and like jumbos, you know, the mechanical dials. He was great at taking them apart. He was absolute shit at putting them back together again. And when they moved the shop from Heathrow down to Wales, they were finding all sorts of bits of chronograph that he hadn't thrown into the River Thames behind people's pedestals and filing cabinets and all sorts of other stuff. He carried that reputation with him for a long time.
Lock him up.
Well, fortunately, he wasn't able to get them in a state where they could actually be refitted to an aircraft. So one of the questions I was going to ask, it never ceases to amaze me that some of the cleverest people I know, when it comes to, say, like maths and certain being able to wrap their head around certain concepts, are complete window lickers when it comes to being open to the possibility of like we're living on a flat plane. The firmament, the which Operation Punchbowl, where they were launching missiles at the firmament. Admiral Byrd. I mean, yada yada yada. Complete refusal. It's I don't know how I just give up sometimes trying to even get them to be willing to contemplate. It's no, Copernicus and the heliocentric model, and that's it. End of, shut down. I'm sure you've encountered something similar.
Oh no, never. No, never heard of it. No, it's where you start to be a little more particular about the adjectives that you use. like the difference between somebody who's intelligent and somebody who's smart. Those are not two qualities you always find in the same individual. And I think you're running into that. More silence. Or am I just, is my audio out?
No, we got you, son.
Okay, cool.
Well, if it's going to be silence, I'll follow up. But yeah, I think Operation Fishbowl proved God, honestly. If you're going to try to blow up the firmament and see if you can flood the earth again and God doesn't allow it, then God exists. So, there's that. But no, back to, things that have blown my mind with regards to the model. Alan's presentation on negative parallax honestly really fucked with my head. I mean, it really did, and it should. Fuck with a lot of people said with that prediction. So with the glob ball rotation, we had damn near 50% of the stars going in the opposite direction. Square that circle, right? But my question is, Alan, have you ever asked any AI chat model the questions that you presented in the way that you presented them? Because if I do, I'm probably going to fuck it up. But like, you should probably, you might want to be like, hey, so check it out, Grok or Chat GPT or whatever. Help me square this circle and see if it, self-implode. Because that was the thing. I mean, and, I remember, even Sacred was kind of like, what? Like, a lot of people were just like, what the hell? Like, when you presented that, people were like, this is fucking insane. How is this possible? Yeah, that'd be something cool to ask those models and see if you can make malfunction. Beep, boop, bop, boop, beep. I'll land it there. Alan's taking a bear shit in the woods. He wasn't even listening. Or you guys can't hear me. Can you guys hear me? I'm seeing emojis.
Yeah, we
right?
got you, Orwell.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. You guys can hear me. Alan's just throwing shade. He's out there. He's fucking taking a big bear dump in the woods, dude. He's probably trying to hide from polar bears because if he doesn't, he's a brown bear. They're going to end up raping him and making a hybrid species, and it's going to be a problem. Thanks, Alcor.
Alan's a brown bear? I thought that thing looked like a grizzly.
Now, brown bear to me is a grizzly because we got black bears up here and they're tiny in comparison to a grizzly. So he's a grizzly, but yeah, polar bear is going to fuck a grizzly up pretty bad. And we actually have a problem up in, well, I wouldn't say my neck of the woods, but maybe my latitude. No, my latitude, my longitude. Yeah, polar bears started making their way, because they were going to die. Al Gore told us they're all going to die. Their little floating ice shelves are going to sink and whatever. And then they made their way to Canada and started fucking grizzly bears. So now we've got hybrid killers and, well, the whole prediction failed. So, yeah, global warming's real, fellas.
Do they look like zebras? Sorry.
NASA, NOAA are totally on the level. Like, they totally don't measure temperatures in artificially hot locations, to cause mass hysteria and get you to pay more taxes to stop the sun from being as hot as it is. Like, get the fuck out of here.
So I did have another question. So a long time ago, Mrs. Mishka, when I was courting her, she's Russian, and she was based in Moscow, and I was very fortunate to actually be able to go to Star City, which is where they train cosmonauts. And this is how long ago it was. They had a mock-up in a bit like the moon pool that NASA has, but it had a mock-up of the Mir space station. I didn't have, or I wasn't flush enough to go in like a spacesuit, so I just used like a normal diving cylinder. The thing that I find funny is the whole, all of this imagery supposedly on the ISS or whatever seems to be very devoid of twinkle twinkle little star, and it's like, does that not seem odd? And when you go or say to people, how do you kind of explain that? Surely you have no light pollution, so all of the celestial bodies should be so much brighter. And if people wanted to, I don't know, prove once and for all that the Earth is a globe, well, how about rotate the Hubble or the Allen Space Telescope at the Earth, take a picture in real time, and anyone that disagrees, any argument is completely rendered moot. Would you agree?
I would tend to agree on that. I also think that true north-south circumnavigation via flight with midair refueling is something that we're technologically capable of doing and haven't done, which would put that to bed as well. So, like, there's ways that we can kind of figure this out, and nobody's going to do it for obvious reasons. So,
You know, I actually had a question on that north to south because over there on Facebook, yeah, these guys had like 5 different routes of supposed north to south circumnavigation. One of them was like Sir Rudolph and another jackass, and the two of them supposedly like trekked the whole globe. Do you guys know anything about that?
yeah, are you talking about the north to south circumnavigation with regards to like all the different weird ass zigzags that they had to do, and it wasn't true north to south in a loop, which is why I mentioned midair refueling.
Yeah, these guys were like explorers like back in the day, so they weren't flying. But yeah,
That was
I'd have to.
ship north south circumnavigation. You're talking like maritime.
Yeah, a little bit of probably boating and a little bit of walking, I think.
Yeah, so I mean, to their credit back then, that was the best you could get, right? So like, this is how we did it because it was the only way that we could do it, but we did it. And what I'm saying is, with regards to flat versus globe proof, if your model works, right? And we have this technology we know that exists, like we refuel fucking fighter jets midair. We shouldn't have a problem circumnavigating, not circumventing, sorry, circumnavigating the globe north-south with midair refueling until, well, we make it one full rotation. And on top of that, we have sophisticated systems of quote unquote measurement these days, so we can measure the actual distance and figure out, well, how fucking lied to we've been, and if it's even possible. And I'm willing to bet it's not, but there's a reason why nobody's done it. That's my point. The technology exists. We could have done this, probably 25, 30 years ago. We haven't done it. I wonder why. Sorry, I landed the north-south circumnavigation plane right there. So I guess Mishka, what you got, buddy?
sorry. So being or willing to accept I might be a bit of a simpleton. Maybe someone else can make sense of this. That surely the straightest line to get from A to B is in directly. So seems somewhat curious to me. Maybe I'm overanalyzing that instead of a rocket, doesn't matter which one, taking off and flying vertically, they always seem to go in a bit of an arc and a trajectory rather than straight towards, well, space. Why might that be? Am I just being thick? Perfectly willing to accept that.
No, you're not. It's always a parabolic arc because the shells always land in the Bermuda Triangle. And if they're launched from another country, they land somewhere similar. There's a graveyard of these things that never actually do anything but potentially scrape the firmament or don't even quite get there. It's just it's pomp and circumstance, or bread and circuses for the space fanboys. You're not wrong in that logic. Like they make up a lot of different excuses, but there's going to be more resistance if we don't go through at an angle, and re-entries. That's bullshit. The straightest path, kind of as you were laying out. Like if I'm trying to get from point A to point B on land, flat, doesn't matter. Anybody is trying to accomplish a thing. They're going to take the most direct route, but somehow there's all these weird fucking excuses for why, with regards to rocket launches and space travel, that everything's got to be in a parabolic arc, which is exactly what you would see firing, mortar in a war. It does the same. It does the exact same fucking thing. I've had railgun arguments with dudes that call that artillery, which it isn't. It wouldn't work on a globe. None of this shit does. But to your question, yeah, no, you're not being dense at all. It would make logical sense that, especially with regards to fuel. Well, we've got a limited amount of fuel. This thing weighs this much. We got to get it here. We have to get it here a certain amount of time with a certain amount of velocity. All the shit that they make up. Why would you go to parabolic arc and burn more fuel as opposed to going straight up? Well, all they do is
I agree, and I mean, I was that awkward child that always asked why, and I don't mean to be like contrarian or wind people up, but I do find it somewhat amusing to get people tied up in knots trying to make something that doesn't make sense in their mind, if that makes sense to you. So obviously on a globe model, great circle route, so you would fly from A to B, say over Russia from Europe to Tokyo. However, when you look at things like maps of undersea cables, something doesn't quite add up. If you look on like behind the president's desk on Air Force One, is one of the 747s that's being replaced, or one of the two. The map that's on the wall is a flat Earth. The UN symbol is based on a flat Earth. Air navigation maps make no mention of any kind of gradient deflection. It's all based on flat Earth. There's so many things that when even regardless of whatever you point out, no, it's the heliocentric Copernicus, Galileo, yada yada yada. That's the only way forward, and you're absolutely fucked in trying to make any. Well, they're blinkered. People are blinkered.
This is so language barrier here, not necessarily language, but maybe cultural difference. So blinkered, is that like blinders, like on a horse?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm not up there. I just wanted to be sure, but yeah, no. I mean, they really kind of fucked up with some of these historical photos. To your point, you go back as far as some historical photos of Hitler and his people plotting how they were going to advance on the lines and whatever, and they're using obviously a flat map, but they have essentially the same map that you're talking about. It's seen multiple times, over and over and over again, historically, in tons of different photos. And I don't know if it was an oversight, on the poor bastard whose job it was to scrub history appropriately, or if it's just revelation of the method to them and it's a fuck you to us. But you can see it. It's all over the place. It's in plain sight. The Georgia Guidestones in the USA that were blown up by somebody that I'd like to fucking have a beer with. Ironically, they were kind of an ode to the people that are deceiving us, but at the same time, showed us that Polaris stays fixed and never moves. Dude, the amount of shit that doesn't work on their model that's pretty easily proven here by things like that, and a lot of things that we discuss in these rooms, as opposed to all of the different fucking placeholders and excuses these people have to have, like dark matter and shit that they can't explain. Like I brought up when Alan was out taking a bear shit, like his presentation on negative parallax. How do you square that circle? Why are stars moving in the opposite direction? And way, way, way beyond what was predicted. There's a lot of issues, and they just point to. They really love dividing the hemispheres. That's their gotcha, right? It's their mic drop, and they typically run off before you even get to have a conversation. But Mishka, there's so many historical pictures of people sitting in front of that map. I don't know. What do you do with it? No, people aren't going to. Most people that you're arguing with aren't even. They're just like big mad and don't really think. And as Stone mentioned, like there's a difference between people who are smart and people who are intelligent. And you're arguing with a combination of maybe a smart person that's like half retarded sometimes, because they can put forth a good argument to an extent, but no, they don't.
An academic fuckwit. They've got a certificate that says they're clever.
That's
ask them to hang a picture.
Fuckwit. I'm gonna use that. Love it. You're a fucking academic fuckwit. Just
sorry.
That's
it's not very politically correct. But I'm not exactly.
You're right.
Correct. So there used to be a TV show with it was Harry Enfield, who was a comedian, and one of the characters he plays was Tim, nice but dim. And sometimes it's frustrating. That's what you're dealing with. All you can do is offer them a helmet and a set of crayons and a roll of wallpaper. Just keep an eye on them, make sure they don't eat the crayons.
Oh, that's funny too. Hey, I'm gonna get out of here. I don't know if Brian, TM, or Ken or anybody's actually co-hosting. If Conspiracy's in here, he's laughing. He could probably help with the hands. D's gonna be up, but I gotta roll, guys. Gotta get my kids to bed and shit. But it's been a fun Friday, man. I love y'all. Let's get after it tomorrow.
All right, man. Go for it.
Have a good
Later,
night.
we're well.
Hey guys, I got a question. Does anybody know if any of the images of Earth from far away, where they capture the entire thing, does it show any stars beyond Earth? And the reason I ask that is, doesn't that falsify everything? If if we're, thousands of miles away, they take a photo or image, not a photo, they take an image of Earth, and you get the whole picture. And there's stars, you can see stars beyond it. Wouldn't that kind of negate the flat thing? Wouldn't that kind of say, like, okay, there's another side over there, and are those stars the constellations that we see normally? Because that would mean that it would be rotating around us, not just above us. Anyway, I haven't seen too many of those images. Just wondering if anybody's seen one that has stars behind Earth from that perspective.
No, if they show you a picture of like Earth, like in detail, it's taken in strips, and like the angle or whatever is too close to see anything else. Like they don't take it's not taking like a big view of things that are past Earth. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I've never seen one like that. And then there was a couple of times when I was going over Discover stuff, some of the raw images with Icon Science, that I think there was a couple of instances where we found some weird negatives, and he was saying that those might be satellites. So like, I don't think that that's true, but there was that. That's literally the only kind of thing that's been seen like that.
Interesting. I'll keep an eye out, see if I can find anything one of these days. But yeah. Okay.
Never seems to be any kind of stars, or so when supposedly there's cameras or pictures being taken out of the window of the ISS, it's very dark and very black, and not really kind of much in the way of stars.
Right.
And I remember someone shared or sent, it was a time lapse video, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 hours from the ISS. And I mean, call me Mr. fucking crazy, but the clouds didn't move. It's like, that doesn't make sense. How can that be? It's like, what, the wind suddenly stopped? Maybe. I'm willing to accept all possibilities.
Yo, I'm about to head off for the night, lads and ladettes.
Have a good night, bro.
Is that a fact? It's just too late. Past your bedtime?
Yes, dude, I'm an old man now, Stone. Haven't you heard?
Have you officially joined the Grumpy Old Man's Club?
I have.
Where you feel completely compelled to
All right, lads and ladettes, thanks for tuning in to the Friday night community Twitter space. Saturday night will be trivia hosted by Andrew. It's going to be biblical and different aspects of, I think, Greek, Roman, and Egyptian mythology. And I think something else, I can't remember. There's like 4 or 5 subjects all tied together in regards to that kind of stuff. So if you're into that, make sure you tune in. And then Sunday will be Globebusters. We'll be following up on the ether physics Prezi with the Sagnac effect in a follow-up experiment by Mr. Defour and Prunet from France, who did some modified Sagnac experiments. And we'll go over those different configurations and what the significance of those are on Sunday on Globebusters. And then Tuesday will be a Ether Cause special. Dr. Cassander will be joining us to go over a follow-up to his Einstein Train Challenge and a couple other things for a live Q&A. We'll be at the end of that. So if you have any questions for Bennett regarding ether, relativity, shape of the Earth, whatever, stay tuned or tune in for that on Tuesday. And if it doesn't happen to be that, it will be something else. See you guys then.